Okay, we are streaming. And we are recording. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our hopefully final realignment committee meeting for our 25 through 28 alignment session. It is 9:02 a.m. on May 28th, 2025, and I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Ms. Wonder, if you would do us the honors of the roll call, please.
Brooke Floormaster.
Here.
Joshua Katz. Miles Baldwin.
Here.
David Vick.
Here.
Sean Fitzsimons.
Present.
Ken Parker. Mike Brooks. Katz is here. Okay.
Yes.
Sarah Scott. Phil Tao.
Here.
Dallas Larson. Jason Odegaard.
Here.
Rob Kittrell.
Here.
Wade Pearson.
Here.
Paul Sullivan. Tammy Habig.
She's here.
Okay. Tony Polzin.
Here.
Domingo Rivera. Isabel Sanchez.
Present.
Mike Kofer.
Here.
Oops, sorry, I skipped over one section. Art Anderson.
Here.
Darvel Bell.
Here.
Freeman Holbrook. Chris Madram.
Here.
Okay. Xavier Inthium.
Here.
Bob Levitt.
Here.
Bart Davis.
Here.
Tim Jackson.
Here.
Paul Anderson.
Here.
And myself, Tia Wonder.
And Ms. Wonder, Mike Brooks is in the room. I think he's just having some audio issues.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Thank you. And if you would turn to page 5 in your packet and actually move on to page 6. Actually, no, we don't. Are we missing the... No, I'm just lost. Never mind. Page 6 for our meeting agenda. If we do need to approve today's agenda, if you would give that a look, make sure that we're good with today's agenda, we would entertain a motion to approve. I don't think we need a flexible agenda, but it doesn't hurt to have one. So if whoever does make that motion wouldn't mind making the motion as a flexible agenda, we would appreciate it. Again, looking for a motion for today's agenda.
Tony Polzin, 485A South. I make a motion we approve today's agenda and make it a flexible agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Polzin. Do we have a second?
Sean Fitzsimons, 2A South. I will second the motion.
Motion by Mr. Polzin, a second by Mr. Fitzsimons to approve today's agenda and make it a flexible agenda. Any further discussion, any questions or comments? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on to agenda item number 4, which is the approval of the minutes from our May 21st, 2025 meeting. That agenda item begins on page 8 of your packet. Hopefully you've had a chance to look through everything. Thank you to Mrs. Segroy and Ms. Wonder who helped us out doing the minutes and getting this turned around in just a week's time and out to everybody. When you are ready, we would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Jason Odegaard, 3A South. I move to approve the minutes from the prior meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Odegaard. Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
And that second was by Mr. Baldwin. Okay. Motion by Mr. Odegaard, second by Mr. Baldwin to approve the minutes as presented on page 8 and the following pages of the packet. Any further questions or any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll move on to agenda item number 5, and that begins on page 13 of your packet, committee chair comments and announcements. Just an update on the timeline. What we approve here today, following all the appeals, following the postseason formats, will go forward to our Board of Control for next week's board meeting, June 3rd and 4th in Reno at the Boys and Girls Club of Truckee Meadows. The board will have its chance to take a look at things. If they go ahead and approve it, we're all done. And we would have an alignment for 25 through 28. I'm going to hold off on some other comments until we get through everything. But yeah, we've got 14 appeals to hear today. Some of them are multiple appeals from the same school. We will hear them separately. Just so everybody's aware, my plan is to go track where there are 2 appeals, then boys volleyball where there are 3. Baseball, we have 6. Softball, we have 3. I don't have any appeals at this point for golf or for swimming. So that's the order that we anticipate going in. I have 1 school who will be presenting an appeal. The person presenting is tied up in some construction meetings on campus. They've asked if they could be heard a little bit later in the discussion. We're going to try to do that as best as we can. Okay. We will move on then to item number 6, which is public comment. This time provides an opportunity for citizens to address the committee about any matter not listed on the agenda. Items raised during this portion of the agenda cannot be deliberated or acted upon until notice procedures of the open meeting law have been met. Should a member of the public wish to speak on a matter not listed on the agenda, it is asked that said person complete a public comment card and submit it to an NIAA staff member prior to the opening of this item. A limit of 3 minutes per person and/or 5 minutes for the spokesperson of a group may be imposed. It is requested that comments be directed to the committee as a whole. Comments that are deemed to be irrelevant, repetitious, offensive, inflammatory, willfully disruptive, or deemed to be personal attacks will not be permitted. We have 2 public comments. These people are just getting into the room that have asked to give live public comment. I know, Ms. Wonder, you have a couple on your end as well. We're going to go first to Mr. Corey Anderson. Are you in the room with us? If you would unmute, sir.
Sorry, I'm Dave Anderson, not Corey.
Right, we actually do have 2.
Okay.
We're full of Andersons in this meeting.
Hey, it's a common name. I'll get out of here.
No worries. Corey Anderson, are you with us? If you would unmute.
I'm just getting unmuted. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm Dave Anderson, not Corey.
Right, we actually do have 2. Yeah,
All right, yep, I'm here.
okay, and if you would mute that YouTube in the background just so we don't have it. But are you prepared to give your public comment, Corey Anderson?
I am, yes.
Okay, whenever you're ready, sir, you will have 5 minutes speaking on behalf of the Track and Cross Country Coaches Association.
Good morning, Good morning, members of the Realignment Committee. I'm Corey Anderson, president of the Southern Nevada Track and Cross Country Coaches Association. Here to make public comment on support of 2 of the appeals that you're going to hear later this morning from Coronado and Sky Point Track and Field. First off, I'd like to start by thank you for serving on the committee, which I'm aware can be very challenging determining how to quantify competitive balance in more than 20 sports across 5 or even more classifications is a difficult and unenviable task. Like all rubrics, our current track and field rubric has its limitations. In most sports, we can estimate and make predictions about how a certain team would fare if they played another team or were in another league, but we truly could never know how these hypothetical matchups would turn out. In track and field, however, we have the luxury of being able to take the actual performances and look at how these teams would have placed or fared in another classification. I've done this with Sky Point and Coronado Track and Field. Would like to share some of that data with you to consider. Because my time is limited, I'm going to be brief in regards to the Coronado appeal. Simply put, Coronado's rubric score is an extreme outlier, and that in 2024, their boys team scored 0 points in the 5A region meet. Because of the nature of how our rubric works and only considers athletes who score in the Regent meet, this yielded a rubric score of 0 for Coronado boys in 2024, which clearly Coronado boys were not the worst program by far in all of Nevada in track and field, all the classifications. They simply didn't perform well at the 5A level, which is a very high standard. Sky Point, for kind of opposite reasons, is also an extreme outlier in that they have a rubric score that's dominated by success in a single event area at the 4A level. However, if we take Sky Point's performances at the 4A level and we actually take them and plug them into the 5A level, unlike the performances of Desert Oasis or Arborview, who are coming up from the 4A to the 5A, the Sky Point performances that they amassed a massive amount of rubric points at the 4A level. At the 5A level, those points wouldn't be competitive. They wouldn't score any points. And so, although it's a bit of it's a bit more work. I've done it. I've taken the Sky Point performances for the 2024-2025 rubric year, and I've plugged them into the actual 5A meets that happen and yielded what scores they would have scored if they were actually competing in the 5A level and not competing in the 4A level on the rubric. In doing this, I'll recite some of the data to you. Of the 5A teams that are in there, they range from 481 points total by Liberty scored in 24-25, girls and boys, both years combined, all the way down to Foothill, who scored 69. The schools that are being suggested for realignment, that threshold: Coronado 143, Canyon Springs 135, Foothill 69. The Sky Point team, they would have only scored 64 points in the 5A in boys and girls combined. In 2024, their women would have scored 7 points, by far dead last in the 5A. 2025, their girls would have scored 14 points, by far dead last in the 5A. In 2025, their boys would have scored 20 points, by far dead last in the 5A. And in 2025, that was their girls. Their boys would have scored 23 in 2024. They would have scored ahead of Coronado in that year. However, if you add up all of these points, in other words, if they would have been in 5A and performed the same way that they did in 4A, they would have been dead last in the 5A in the rubric, and they would have also been below Mojave. They would have been below Green Valley. Furthermore, if you look at the data teams on the rubric that they're ahead of, such as Legacy would have scored 246, almost 5 times higher than Sky Point when measured by that. So from this, I hope you can see that Sky Point really isn't a 5A school. They have a 5A event group in their distance running, and that if you take Sky Point, it is essentially, if they break their school records in every single event, they still will not be competitive in the 5A track and field level. They simply have scored numerous times. Most years they've scored 24 times in the 800, 1600, and 32 in boys and girls. I know my time is running short. You're going to hear from Sky Point's coach, Paul Shepard, today, who's a fantastic coach. I hope that you can consider, outside of the rubric data, that, if we make these realignments up, I fear that we're going to be in a similar situation that we are now, where we're kind of turning track and field into European soccer promotion and relegation, where 2 years ago we moved Foothill and Canyon Springs up because of success at the 4A level, only to learn that they couldn't be competitive at the 5A level. In closing, I just,
That is time, sir, unfortunately. Thank you so much. Okay, we also have with us today to give public comment Mr. David Anderson. He is the baseball coach at Faith Lutheran High School and is here representing the Southern Nevada baseball coaches. Mr. David Anderson, same rules apply here. You have 5 minutes, sir, whenever you're ready.
All right.
You may
Thank you,
begin.
guys. Thank you, guys. Good morning.
And just like that, it appears he is frozen. We will see if we can get him back and going once again. In the meantime, Ms. Wonder, I believe you have a couple of public comments that
Yeah.
were mailed in.
Into 20 teams.
Oh, there,
organized.
Mr. Anderson, I'm going to have you stop for
Uh-oh.
just a second. You froze on us for about 15 to 20 seconds. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if you're getting to a spot you have better connection. But if you want to go ahead and start again, sir, we'll go ahead and give you your 5
Yes.
minutes. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Is that better? Am
Yes,
I
it is.
unfrozen now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. I'll start from the top. I serve on the board of Southern Nevada Baseball Coaches Association, and we understand that today is an appeals day and that no decision will be made on realignment. However, we do know that several teams are going to appeal up, and with that in mind, we'd like to support their addition to the 5A. On behalf of all of our coaches, I want to express our full support for the following idea for realignment. Expansion to 20 teams organized into 4 divisions of 5. This structure benefits Nevada as a whole. It's a concept we've discussed for years, collaborating with coaches from the North and the South, garnering strong support across the board. This isn't a new idea. This framework stems from the NIAA precedents. The NIAA has successfully implemented similar structures in other sports, namely football, over the past 2 years. From its inception during the and 4A Division I era, this realignment structure increased competitive balance and deeper playoff runs. However, challenges arose under the original format as entire schools shifted, and this created some competitive imbalances, which are now avoided thanks to the NIAA decision to realign by sport and by season. In Southern Nevada, there is a massive gap between the top 20 programs and the next tier. The proposed format naturally groups teams by competitive level. Right. Additionally, incorporating a 2-tiered playoff system, which is kind of our preferred method, would allow divisions to naturally balance themselves over time. In the South, the advantage is that this would create a possibility for stability and realignment in the future, while in the North, at a very minimum, it would provide opportunities for 2 additional teams to compete for a state tournament berth, allowing for more options for those teams at the end of the year. Regarding concerns about programs throwing games, baseball has way too many variables. It would be near impossible to guarantee the results that you would like. Also, the parity in the South, combined with the current and potential changes to the transfer rules, that will hold us accountable, and athletes will leave programs that throw games. This plan alleviates the stress and disruption of the current realignment. The current system has also led to some individual program instability, as many student athletes choose to transfer away from schools realigned from 5A to 4A in search of staying at a higher level of competition. The proposed plan vastly improves scheduling. All right, currently we cram 7 weeks of league play into a 9-week season. This structure, 20 teams, 4 divisions of 5, requires only 4 weeks, offering flexibility to strengthen schedules even further, enhance student-athlete experience, and also to really just make it so travel can make more sense. As for postseason options, expanding the playoff is always a good idea. For example, in Utah's 5A division this year, Spanish Springs won the 5A state championship as the 20th seed in the tournament. The beauty of this type of realignment is that it opens up multiple opportunities for playoff. A 2-tier system, which is kind of, as I said before, our preferred idea. The top 2 from each division would compete in 8-team 5A Division I regional bracket. 3rd and 4th place teams would compete in 8-team Division II regional bracket, ultimately meeting up with corresponding 1, 2, and 3, 4 seeds from the northern schools in 2 separate state tournaments. Beyond that, you can just expand to 12 to 16 teams played over 10 to 12 days. You could even come up with a competitive tournament format that's similar to NCAA baseball tournament with regionals and things like that. That's not what we're here to talk about mostly, though. As an association, we value and respect recommendations provided by the NIAA and the established rubric. We believe it is essential to prioritize what is ultimately in the best interest of our student athletes. This proposal is intended to enhance the student athlete experience both competitively and developmentally. Although the rubric offers consistent framework for team-by-team evaluation, coaches often have insights that go beyond the data alone. The willingness of multiple programs to appeal up from 4A to 5A highlights a broader desire among schools to challenge themselves in the most competitive environment possible, particularly if it includes the opportunity for an expanded postseason. In the current 4A, half the programs don't have a JV, which is a driving factor for many to appeal up to create more opportunities for their athletes to compete. Personally, this is a little bit off of the Coaches Association. I would argue that the current 2-year system has worked well thus far in establishing a rubric 1 to 41 in the South. However, it reveals that there's a massive difference in the top 20 and the next 20. Our proposal is designed to create a future plan allowing for rubric data over the past 5 seasons to be applied in a simple, naturally realigning fashion. Lastly, if a 5A Division I and a 5A Division II format is not under consideration at this time, we would respectfully urge the NIAA to consider at a minimum expanding regional tournament to 12 or even 16 teams. Doing so would reflect a genuine commitment to supporting student athletes and fostering their growth through meaningful competition. We really appreciate your guys' time. Our whole goal is to just try to enhance that athlete experience and get them to move forward. Thank you for your time, and thank you for considering our time and our words.
And thank you, Mr. Anderson, for your comment. Okay, Ms. Wonder, I kind of false started you before, but I know you've got a couple public comments that were emailed in as well. Whenever you are ready, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay,
So the first one is going to be from Rex Hardy. Would you mind timing me, Bart?
I will.
Okay. I would like to provide a public comment recommendation for consideration with regards to the realignment of boys volleyball. At a recent realignment meeting, a member stated that it is not possible for competitive balance and enrollment protection to reside under the same roof. I couldn't agree more, especially after reviewing the realignment recommendation provided in the packet for this meeting. While enrollment protection may work for some sports, it definitely does not work for Southern-only sport of boys volleyball. The proposed realignment has top-tiered 4A schools with the rubric scores ranging from 160 to 167 competing in the same classification as bottom-tiered schools, with scores ranging from 57 to 68, a full 100-point difference. In 3A, top-tiered schools have scores ranging from 129 to 165, competing in the same classification as schools ranging from no score, because they have never fielded a team, to 46. Anyone that has attended a volleyball match where one team is clearly superior to their opponent knows that the match is no fun to be a part of for either team or for their fans, especially if one of those teams has had to travel a long distance to participate in such a blowout loss or victory. With that being said, I would propose that you use boys volleyball as your pilot program sport to see how classifications could be aligned and how competitive balance could be restored if you removed enrollment protection from consideration. I believe you could take the rubric scores and draw 2 lines where they would make the most sense to provide 3 classifications to provide competitive balance and a somewhat evenly sized classifications. A 4A classification with 33 teams is too big in my opinion. If you want to keep some semblance of enrollment protection in your realignment recommendation, you could provide an exception to keep enrollment protected schools from competing in 5A. You have an opportunity to use the next 3 years with this one sport to see how this could work, and it would provide you with some valuable input as you look at realignment for the next cycle. Let's not make this more complicated than it needs to be. Balance out boys volleyball by rubric scores and let these boys compete in a competitive environment that is best for all involved. I appreciate all you do and for your service on this committee. Rex Hardy, parent of 2 current volleyball players at different schools. Okay, the next one is from James or Jimmy Greco Jr. Good morning. A few years ago, when our team, Desert Pines, appealed to be in the 3A, we were told that we would lose anyway, so why should we be considered? It is stated in the records. I would like to know why 3A is a protected division. I do not think it is fair or equitable that there are only 6 teams from the South and 10 teams from the North in the 3A, while the Southern Division of 4A has 28 teams. I know some teams are going to opt for 5A, but let's be honest. We are losing baseball and other sports at Tier 1 schools. It costs $200 for a glove, $75 to $120 for cleats, and let's not mention bats. We are playing 3-inning games due to run rules, as players are only getting 1 at-bat per game, and some are quitting. Out of the bottom teams remaining in the 4A, how many had winning seasons? There has to be a better, fairer, and more equitable way to realign these divisions. Why not make 4A and a 4B? This current rubric is not fair and equitable as it lowers points for playing in the 3A. Is there a way the NIAA wants student athletes to feel? Is this the way the NIAA wants student athletes to feel when playing a Tier 1 school? This does not promote the sport for longevity. It kills it. This was supposed to be addressed at the last realignment, but it was not. When will the NIAA make it fair and equitable like other states around Nevada? Why is 3A such a protected class? These questions need to be addressed before the next realignment, as no action will be taken at this time, as usual. Thank you. Sorry, everybody.
Sorry, I should unmute. Mr. Jackson or Ms. Wonder, is there anybody in the NIA office at this moment wishing to give live public comment? No. Is there anybody at any of our other locales around the state at this point? Okay, item number 6 is closed. We will move on to item number 7. And here is where we hear the appeals today. Again, we've kind of measured this out. I'm going to let some people into the room here where we will be doing the track appeals first, then boys volleyball, then baseball, and then softball. I'm going to leave this up to the committee on what you choose to do here. Do you want to vote after each individual appeal? Do you want to hear all the appeals in one sport and then vote on each of the appeals? I don't think we prefer to hear all 14 and then start voting after that. But I think either of the first two options is pretty fair at this point. I'm going to leave this open for discussion. What would you guys like to do here?
Tony Polzing, 485A South. I think it's probably more beneficial if we hear at a minimum sport appeals and then vote. I think maybe if it's a smaller, but like the baseball appeals where there's several, maybe we should break that up. But I think if there's just one or two, maybe we could hear both
Okay.
and then vote. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay. Anybody else with the feelings one way or the other on this?
I agree with Tony.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and start this out? I will reference you to page 43 in your packet. That is a letter from David Stump, the athletic director at Coronado High School, regarding Coronado's appeal in track to go from the 4A to the 5A for consideration at this time. Mr. Stump, I believe we do have you with us.
I'm here.
Thank you so much, sir. The letter is in the packet. You have the opportunity here. You're not time limited on this, but if you wouldn't mind kind of summarizing for us why Coronado wishes to appeal from 4A to 5A in track.
Sure. I want to thank the Realignment Committee for hearing our appeal to move from 4A to 5A in track, and Mr. Corey Anderson of the entire Andersons in the meeting for his support from the Track Coaches Association. We've been a part of the 5A track classification since it was created. We feel that our student enrollment, which will be just over 3,000, we assume this coming fall, along with the success of our girls team, is going to support this request. We would much rather, as an administrative team and our track coach, our coaching staff, we'd much rather have our girls be competitive in 5A, which they are, while our boys develop our program. As stated earlier by Mr. Anderson, the numbers aren't kind of bearing out the way that they should be. We're hoping just to keep the teams together up in 5A, basically let our girls be competitive and let the boys, do what they got to do in hopes of, improving year to year and eventually being competitive as we have been in the past in the 5A.
Any questions from our committee for Mr. Stump about the Coronado appeal? For reference purposes, the current alignment for track and field is on page 29 of your packet. It shows us with 10 teams currently in the 5A and 29 schools that would be in the 4A. The track and field rubric, if you would like to reference that, is on page 30 of your packet. So any questions here for Coronado? Okay. Mr. Stump, stand by. We will have a vote on this here shortly. We do have one other track appeal to hear. It is from Sky Point. And I know their coach, Mr. Shepard, is here. Do we also have an administrator from Sky Point? Because we do need an athletic director or an administrator to present this appeal.
Coach is here. I can get a hold of my principal super quickly. If that's what we need to do. He can pop on.
Yeah, we would need to have him, or we need somebody who's an administrator at the school to be able to present that.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
if you would do that, in the meantime, committee, as we wait for that, do you want to go ahead and take the vote on the Coronado appeal at this point?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Tony Polzing, 485A South. I make a motion that we approve Coronado's appeal in boys and girls track from 4A to 5A.
Sean Fitzsimons, 2A South. I'll second the motion.
All right, you're
It's unmuted again. I've got landscapers here and they're just blowing air all around. It's loud, and I try to keep you not being having your ears blown out. Motion by Mr. Polzien, second by Mr. Fitzsimons to approve the appeal by Coronado in boys and girls track to move from the 4A to the 5A in the 25 through 28 alignment. Any further discussion, any questions? All in favor of this, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. The Coronado appeal from 4A to 5A in track has been approved. Let's, for the moment, as we wait for a Sky Point administrator, let's go ahead and go to boys volleyball. If you would go to page 37 and 38 of your packet, this is the appeal from Foothill boys volleyball to go from the 4A to the 5A. And as we get into boys volleyball, that information of the current alignment and the rubric are on pages 21 through 23 of your packet. So, Mr. Polzien, I believe you're representing Foothill on this one today for your boys volleyball appeal. Whenever you're ready, sir, go ahead and kind of summarize, if you would, the reason why Foothill is appealing up in boys volleyball.
Yeah, that would be accurate. I am representing. Thank you for your time, everybody. It's good to see you all. We would like to appeal from 4A to 5A in boys volleyball. We have listed, I'm not going to read the letter to you. You can read it yourself. It's my pet peeve when people read slides to people. So you can read that yourself. But we feel, though, that this past season we were very competitive. While it does show set totals where we did win 12 sets and lost 35, we were competitive in most all of those matches. For reference, we lost to Palo Verde 2-3, and one of those losses, the score was like 44-42. We had a few of those games. We feel like we were very competitive. If you look at our success against teams that are going to be put into the 4A division this upcoming cycle, we won 17 sets and lost 4. And we only lost one of those games to Desert Oasis. We are returning. We've only graduating 3 kids. We are returning the core of this team. Our lower levels were very successful. As you can see, we had a 25-point jump in rubric points from the previous year to this past year. So we feel like with our new coaching staff, with what we have returning, and the growth that we saw in the program this year, that we will be competitive in 5A through the next cycle. And it allows us to continue to participate and play against, neighboring schools. And honestly, 7 teams in 5A volleyball just seems a little low. I mean, we could potentially have teams, going 0 league wins and still making the playoffs. I realize we could still do that with 8. But on behalf of Foothill, I would like to see our volleyball team moved up in the best interest of our program. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Polzien? Okay, again, that current alignment for boys volleyball, the one that we approved last week, is on page 22, the rubric on page 23 and 24 of your packet. We've got 2 more boys volleyball appeals. Let's go next to page 40 of your packet. This is the appeal from Sierra Vista's boys volleyball program, 4A to 5A for Sierra Vista. And I believe we have Mr. Bedowitz from Sierra Vista with us.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir. If you would go ahead and summarize the reasons here for Sierra Vista appealing from 4A to 5A in boys volleyball.
This is going to be very similar to Mr. Polzien's statement, basically all the way down. We want to appeal from 4A into 5A. We felt that we were very competitive in 5A this year. We split with 2 teams that you have designated to be in 5A. We were competitive with the other ones over the last 2 seasons. We've made the playoffs. We've ranked 7th and 8th in these last 2 years. Our lower level programs are strong. We only graduated 2 seniors this year. The coach believes that we can continue to be competitive in the 5A alignment, and we feel that that's the best spot for our program.
Thank you, Mr. Bedowitz. Any questions for Mr. Bedowitz regarding Sierra Vista's appeal in boys volleyball? Okay. Page 42 of your packet is our third boys volleyball appeal. That comes to us from Doral Academy Red Rock. And I believe we have Ms. Petit here with us representing Doral.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your time. I'm here today to respectfully request that Doral's men's volleyball team be moved down to 3A. As you can see from the information in your packet, this past 2025 season, we played 44 sets and won just 8 of them, which is an 18% win rate. We didn't win a single game all season. In 2024, we went 3 for 9 overall and won 14 out of 51 sets, a 27% win rate. Our program has only been around for 4 years, and we finished last place this year and second to last place the last 3 years in our league. According to the NIAA rubric, Doral ranks 39th out of 46 teams. And importantly, there are 10 teams ranked above us in 3A, while only 5 teams ranked below us already competing in 3A. This clearly shows where we stand competitively. The nearest 4A team scored 16 more points than us in the rubric, while the top 4A team sits at 88 points higher than us. Our current JV team is made up almost entirely of athletes new to volleyball. Only 2 have previous experience. Meanwhile, our system's middle schools have struggled to generate interest in building their own teams as students are discouraged by the high school's team's ongoing struggles, and our system's middle schools is where the vast majority of our students come from. This change doesn't just benefit us, it also strengthens the 3A league, which faced challenges this year due to one school being unable to field a team. If our appeal is granted, 3A could have up to 10 teams next season, except for if that team doesn't field again. We're committed to competing and are more than willing to travel to places like Pahrump, Boulder, and Moapa to do so. This move isn't about avoiding competition, it's about giving our team a realistic chance to grow, develop, build confidence, and build towards long-term success. While we know 3A includes fierce competition with strong programs like Boulder City and Virgin Valley, we believe that competing at this level will give us the time and space to build our program the right way, with the goal of being ready to hopefully return to 4A by the next realignment. Thank you guys for your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions for Doral Academy Red Rock regarding its appeal in boys volleyball from the 4A to the 3A? Okay, let's recap here. We've got 3 appeals on the table for boys volleyball. We have the appeal from Foothill to go from the 4A placement to the 5A placement. We have the appeal from Sierra Vista to go from the 4A placement to the 5A. And we have the appeal from Doral Academy Red Rock to go from 4A to 3A. Again, looking at your current alignment on page 22 of your packet, as we sit at this moment, we have 7 teams that we have approved into the 5A for recommendation to our Board of Control. We have 29 schools in the 4A and 9 in the 3A. I will go ahead and open it up to our committee for discussion or motions here. Ms. Habig, I think you had your hand up first.
I think mine's a clarifying question.
Okay.
3A is enrollment only, correct?
By our policies and procedures, we did say that 3A schools would be enrollment protected schools. Any school has the right to appeal to any classification they wish to go to.
Okay. That was my question. I think Tony might have my next question, so I'll let him go ahead and go.
If you two have some telepathy going, I don't want to know.
We think the same.
Mr. Polzian, you had your hand up next. If you would unmute, sir.
No, I can assure you this is not what Tammy had in mind. I just, for a point of order, when it comes to voting for my own school, do I abstain from that vote? Just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
I cannot direct any committee member how to vote or whether or not to vote. That is your choice.
Cool. Then I'll just make motions for my own school all day too. So, okay. All right. That's my only question. Sorry, Tammy.
That's okay.
Mr. Fitzsimons.
Yeah, Bart, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion and make it a 2 for maybe more discussion for the 3A thing, but I'd like to make a motion to approve Foothill volleyball and Sierra Vista boys volleyball from the 4A to the 5A for the next realignment cycle.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Fitzsimons and a second from Ms. Habig to approve both Foothill and Sierra Vista's appeals in boys volleyball from the 4A to the 5A. Any further questions, comments, or discussions? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. We have approved those two, and then we still have Durrell Red Rock on the table here. Ms. Habig.
Is who's from 3A on here? I forget. I know Jason Odegaard.
Mr. Odegaard and Mr. Tao are both
Okay.
3A representatives from the South here today.
I would like to get their opinions, please.
Okay, Mr. Odegaard or Mr. Tao, anything you'd like to add here? We also have, obviously, boys volleyball is not played in the North. We have some 3A people from the North on our committee as well.
I think that throughout this year, we've talked a lot about what the 3A classification is, the direction that it's gone so far has been primarily enrollment protected. However, we did make an exception when we did the winter realignment. We let the Amplius girls move into the 3A for basketball. Personally, I guess I'm not entirely opposed to Red Rock coming in from the standpoint of the question of how many teams that will be fielded in the 3A. I know that there's a lot of 4A schools that do not like how many schools are in the 4A classification. So it's only one school, but it would alleviate maybe a little bit some of that and add another team to the 3A league.
Thank you, Mr. Odegaard. We also had Coral Academy Las Vegas appeal successfully down to the 3A in certain sports as well. Yeah, so it has happened. It just hasn't been frequent. Yeah. Mr. Tao, anything you would like to add?
Not really. I follow Jason and Dallas mostly on this because they've been around for a while. Typically, I'm a rule follower, so I try to stay within the confines of the enrollment. So, but like I said, I usually follow Jason and Dallas just because they know more. But I'll follow their lead.
Mr. Polzian, you have your hand up. You need to unmute again, sir.
We need to go back to COVID so I can remember how to do this stuff. Just for point of reference, if we think back to winter sports, we've kind of opened Pandora's box with the flag football 3A situation.
Right.
We're getting into this have my cake and eat it too situation with this enrollment protection.
Yep.
So either we have it or we don't. Like we're going to have to figure that out because we've allowed, now they're playing 4A flag football because there aren't enough viable 3A programs. And I love the 3A. My heart's always in the 3A. But we've got to be careful with this double standard of picking and choosing when we want to be enrollment and when we don't want to be enrollment. Was that what you were thinking, Tammy?
Yes. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Mr. Fitzsimons, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Sean Fitzsimons, 2A South. In looking at Dorrell's men's request, Bart, can you confirm in 2022 and 2023, were they still an independent at that point, or were they full-fledged league members?
They were rubric scored, so they were full-fledged at that point, and their rubric scores were not strong by any means.
That's what I'm looking at here, and I echo Tony's remarks as well. But at the same time, I think, and I don't like to speak for the 3A, just being a 2A guy, but if you look at this, it's not like a team is trying to stay in to completely dominate. And where you have current 3A volleyball teams that are going to be brand new, that are 2A schools, and like Pahrumph's going to be brand new. I think the 3A South volleyball, in my opinion, needs teams. And I just, even with the 3A realignment cycle, my own 2 cents is I don't feel that Terrell's going to go down there and start dominating anytime soon. It might be a nice fit for them to to build their program. And I feel that I know we want to be consistent, but sometimes it's case by case basis and sport by sport.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzsimons. Mr. Polzian, your hand is either still up or back up. I'm not sure which.
It is backup. I just heard from my better half, and he would be in support of that appeal for them going 3A. And by better half, I mean Dallas. I'm sure most of you knew that. But they do need teams, and so he just texted he would be in support of Sky Point Doral Red Rock appealing down in boys volleyball.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, if I'm hearing none, then we would entertain a motion regarding Doral Red Rock's boys volleyball appeal from the 4A to the 3A.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve Doral men's volleyball from the 4A to the 3A reclassification to the 3A league for the next 3-year realignment cycle.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzsimons. Do we have a second?
Chris Magrum, 4A, 5A North. I'll second the motion.
Motion by Mr. Fitzsimons, a second by Mr. Magrum to approve Doral's boys volleyball appeal to go from the 4A to the 3A in boys volleyball. Any further questions, comments, or discussion? I believe we may need a roll call on this one because I just have a feeling based on the comments we could be going both ways here. So, Ms. Wonder, would you mind doing a roll call vote for us, please, on this one?
Yes, I'm going to read through all the names despite some people being absent. It's just how my list is.
And again, before you start, Ms. Wonder, just a reminder, everybody, that when you vote, we do need to unmute.
Okay, I'm going to begin with the 3A guys. Phil Tao,
Yes.
Dallas Larson, Jason Odegaard,
Yes.
Rob Kittrell,
Yes.
Wade Pearson,
Yes.
Paul Sullivan, Tammy Habig,
No.
Tony Polzian,
Yes.
Domingo Rivera,
Yes.
Isabel Sanchez,
Yes.
Art Anderson,
Yes.
Darval Bell,
Yes.
Freeman Holbrook,
Yes.
Chris Magrum,
Yes.
Brooke Formaster, Joshua Katz,
Yes.
Miles Baldwin,
No.
David Vick,
Yes.
Sean Fitzsimons,
Yes.
Ken Parker,
Yes.
Mike Brooks,
Yes.
Sarah Scott. Yeses have it.
Yeah, 16-2. So that motion is approved. The recommendation of the Board of Control be Doral Red Rock will be in the 3A for boys volleyball. That concludes boys volleyball appeals. We do have Sky Point track to go back to, and I believe we do have Mr. Esplin now with us, as well as Mr. Shepard from Sky Point. Gentlemen, if you're here, if you'd go ahead and unmute. And we'd like to start with you, Mr. Esplin, as the administrator from the school. Just kind of summarize for us, if you would, please, Sky Point's rationale behind appealing from the 5A to the 4A in track and field.
Okay, thank you for hearing us today. Thank you for this opportunity to appeal. At Sky Point, this year we're being moved for the coming year to go up to 5A. We have under 500 students in boys, under 500 students in girls. In our current track program, we're not even able to field a full team for all the events. We don't have any pole vaulters. We don't have a lot of the the 100-yard and the short sprint events, the hurdles, stuff like that, because we don't have enough students to be able to pull a full team when it comes to all of those different events. And we have been able to compete in 4A and at least be competitive. Pushing us up to 5A, I feel like will put us at the very end and put us against schools where, again, we can't even field a full program when it comes to track for all of the different events. And now we're being pushed up into an area where we definitely will not be able to be successful. If you looked at how we would score just in 2025 against those schools, we would have come out last in both boys and in girls. So due to those things, and Paul can talk a little bit more about it as well, we're asking that we be left in 4A and not moved up to 5A for this coming year.
Thank you, Mr. Esplin. Mr. Shepherd, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think the key is in the data. I mean, I know nobody cares about this, but for anybody that doesn't know, we don't have a track. We have to use Centennial's track, which means we don't have access to a weight room, which, I mean, I'm pretty sure every single 5A team has access to a full weight room right after their track practice. But key is in the data. If you look at the 2025 combined points, which is what we're using as this rubric, we're going to get dead last. Boys would get dead last for 2024 and 2025. Girls would get 8th for 2024, and in 2025 they would get dead last. We've never won regionals. We have never even come close to winning regionals. It's just that those, you know, Desert Oasis and Arborview, the first teams are scoring so many points that you know, we're in the distance side, we're getting the leftovers, which is putting us in second and third place, which is giving us some points. But yeah, I think the bottom line is based off the data. If you look at the numbers for the 2025 this season, it wouldn't even. We're just getting put up there based off of, in my opinion, a flawed alignment rubric. So yeah, thank you. Thanks all.
Thank you, Coach. Before we get into any other questions or discussion, Mr. Kofer, your hand is up, sir. If you would unmute.
Yes, thank you, Bart. I just want to piggyback off of what I think it's Mr. Shepherd said. There are no charter schools that have their own track facility. And you know, maybe that's a negative to a certain extent for some people, but in this appeal notice, I think it's a positive to note that we don't, as charter schools, we don't have the capability to develop certain areas of a track team: pole vault, long jump, hurdlers, shot put, discus. Those are just completely, you know, far away for us to develop any athletes in those events. So to force a school that doesn't have its own track facility into a 5A level, you know, where they're pulling from 3,000 plus students most of the time, and have the daily usage of something where they can walk out their back door and go train these individuals. I think trying to push a team into, you know, a 5A level at the track and field sport is just not feasible. So, you know, I want to push my support as a charter school liaison to have Sky Point remain in the 4A for track and field. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions, comments, discussion from anybody on our committee? Hearing none, we would entertain a motion regarding Sky Point's track appeal from the 5A to the 4A. Again, track and field for Sky Point appealing 5A to the 4A. We would entertain a motion. If anybody's trying to make one, we do need to have you unmute as well. Give it one more go around here. Looking for a motion regarding Sky Point's appeal and track. I'm not hearing a motion. And at this point, then that would die for lack of a motion. And therefore the appeal would not be granted. Any of our committee members objecting to that? Just want to make sure that we give proper opportunity here because we are on the Zoom meeting. I don't want to make sure that people have their chance to be heard and aren't muted. Mr. Kofer, you had something I think you wanted to add? Or perhaps not?
Well, I mean, you know, we've got support from the track and field coordinator. You know, I don't know if this is a success factor decision. It's kind of a no-brainer. I don't know why somebody doesn't step up. I mean, you know, if it's a you know, for lack of political correctness, if it's an anti-charter school decision, then we're fighting the wrong battle, in my opinion. I mean, this track and field team clearly does not belong in the 5A. All their points come from distance runners. So, I mean, you know, they're never going to compete for a team title in 5A. They're probably never going to compete for a team title in 4A. I don't know where they stood last year in 4A as a, you know, as a team perspective. Maybe Mr. Anderson could, I believe it was Mr. Anderson. Maybe he could shed some light on that. But you know, I think somebody needs to step up and say, for the good of the program, why are we forcing them into 5A?
One more call. Is there a motion? Mr. Polzien, your hand is up.
Yeah, I do have a comment. I mean, you know, I'm at a 5A school. I mean, you can see where our points that Mr. Anderson shared with us. I mean, we're being moved down to 4A, but we don't have pole vaulters, you know, and we don't, you know, we're in a similar situation. So I don't understand. We were moved up into 5A because 3 or 4 years ago, I had one of the best distance runners. I mean, that one kid moved both our programs up into, you know, 5A. And so here we are. So while I understand, with all due respect, Mr. Kofer's argument, at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of us that are in the same boat. And you know, when you start a track team, you understand you don't have that facility, you know, that you may not be able to develop those. But just understand there are a lot of us that I do have pole vault pits, but I don't have one, right? So it's not just an exclusive charter school battle. I mean, we're all fighting that same battle. I don't want, you know, just because we may not have the facility to be able to jump. I mean, Lincoln County won state, and I don't even think they have a regulation track up there, if I'm correct. So we just got to, while I understand the argument, you know, I think we need to just tread lightly on some things. I don't think it's anti-charter school at all. It's just, it is what it is. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mr. Polzien. Ms. Habig, your hand is up.
My comment was going to kind of echo Tony's. It's definitely not an anti-charter. We're number 10 on the rubric. I don't have a single long distance runner either. I'm in 5A because of sprinting and sprinting only, and I lost every single sprinter I had this year. So it's one of those where if we can't just look at everything and say, well, because you don't have this or you don't have this. There's a lot of 5A teams that don't have many of those specific events. I had one pole vaulter, he's gone, so I don't have pole vaulters either, and we're in 5A. So and I agree with Tony that we have to tread lightly, because we can't just say, because you did really well in this one thing, we can't move you up, because we've done it to a lot of other teams, including mine.
Thank you, Ms. Habig. Mr. Kofer, your hand is up.
Yes, I appreciate those clarifications from Tony and Tammy, and I do agree that you know, if you decide to dive into that pool and have that program, you know, you got to figure out how to swim in it. So I do appreciate their clarifications. But you know, the fact is, you know, those larger 5A schools that have those facilities still have the capability of, you know, their own pole vault practice area and their own hurdles. And so you do have the capability of developing those individual student athletes, whereas as charter schools that don't have their own facilities don't even have that capability. Hopefully that's going to change through this next maybe realignment cycle, and those issues will maybe be addressed. But I just want to throw out my support in their staying in 4A to try and maintain their ability to compete at that level. But I do appreciate the clarifications from Tammy and Tony. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kofer. Mr. Polzin, your hand is either back up or still up.
Yeah, it's backup. Just to follow up on kind of what Kofer said, Lake Mead uses my track every day. They go through Facilitron, they use it, they can use our hurdles, our pole vaults. Like there are ways to develop those things if you want to do it. You just gotta make it happen, right? And I understand, you gotta have somebody willing to work with you as well. So I get that. But again, if you're gonna be successful at some point, I mean, if we go back however many years when this started with the Clark basketball team, we had the same discussion, right? Like, if you're going to be success at some point, you have to deal with that success at some point. And track's just one of those weird sports where that one kid is going to score you a lot of points, unfortunately.
Thank you, Mr. Polzin. Mr. Baldwin, your hand is up.
Yeah, and I know this is kind of apples and oranges going 1A to 4A, 5A discussion, but traditionally you look at the 1A schools in track, Wells, Smith Valley, generally have really strong pro vault programs. You look through the years, and we of course have to go out to other facilities as well. I know in Wells we reach out to Spring Creek or Elko most of the time. So just throwing that out there.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Mr. Kofer, I don't know if your hand is back up or still up. Same thing with Mr. Polzin.
Oh, yeah, still up. So yeah, I do want to give a huge thanks to all the 4A, 5A schools that allow, our charter schools to use their facility to get practice to develop our programs. And I in no way, shape, or form wanted to, demean that or lessen that appreciation. It is greatly appreciated. We use BASIC a ton, and so thank you very much for that. But again, I think that history has shown that Sky Point, probably their track program, seems to be a better fit than 4A, and I just wanted to emphasize that. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Any other questions or comments? If not, we're going to go one last time. Do we have a motion regarding Sky Point's track appeal to go from the 5A placement to the 4A placement? Going once, going twice. Okay, no motion. And as a result, that appeal dies for lack of a motion, and we will move on. Thank you, Sky Point. We will move on to our baseball appeals. And our baseball alignment is on page 16. Our rubric for baseball is on pages 17 and 18. And we've got 5 appeals from the south, 1 from the north in this. Let's go ahead and take the one from the north first, and then we can vote on that, and then we can deal as a committee with how we want to handle the 5 southern appeals. So our appeal from the north is from Hug. It is on page 31 of your packet, and this appeal is for Hug Baseball to go from the 5A placement to the 3A placement. And Mr. Magram, you're here representing Hug. If you'd like to go ahead and summarize the reasons behind Hug's appealing from the 5A to the 3A.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. First off, I just want to point out that in the north, we don't have the 4A up here, so it's not some giant jump there. We're just trying to move down one classification. We've been playing in the 3A already, so we're just looking to continue staying in the 3A. As a school with our enrollment where it's at, we didn't appeal for all sports. based on our enrollment, we stayed where we were at. But baseball, and then you'll hear again later for softball, we just felt like it's kind of the best placement for us. If we look at 3A and 5A in the north, there's a pretty wide gap there in competitive balance as far as what I was able to see. I went through schedules, looked at in baseball, there were 7 games between 3A North and 5A North, and the lone win by a 3A team was our state champion in Truckee, beating the last place 5A team. That was the only win across the board for it. Kind of getting back to that 4A comment too, I think this would be, not even a question for us if we had the amount of schools that there are in the South where, competitively we would be, placed into a 4A that's, some of those lower end schools for some programs. We just don't have the numbers up here. So our only options are 3A and 5A. And based on what we've been doing the last few years, the 3H seems to be a much better fit. If you look at the letter that was there, my coaches put together more information as far as, numbers of kids at tryouts and, where our record stands over these last 5 years in the 3A. And, we're a lower end team in the 3A already. But the few teams that we are competitive with, the couple of wins that we've gotten, those are 3A teams, and we would have really nobody in the 5A where we're going to be real competitive with. The 5A is already looking at, if we are there, ways to try to accommodate things and make things the best they can for us. But looking at that divide between the 3A and the 5A, there's a wide gap up here, and the 3A really does seem to be the best placement for us. For those sports specifically, we're going to do the best we can with everything else, but player safety and things that happen with baseball and softball, we just felt like the 3A is going to be our best placement moving forward, hopefully to continue building some programs. I guess on my last point then, which is stuff that the coaches have been noting, we've been able to see a little bit of growth. Baseball, unfortunately, took a little step backwards this year. We didn't have a JV team where we have the previous 2 seasons, which was the first time in a while we were able to field 2 teams for baseball. But we're still growing. We got some young kids in the program, and I know coach's fear is going up to the 5A is going to kind of stunt that growth, maybe kill it, to where we're now facing teams that we've aren't going to be real competitive with, and kind of take away some of that excitement for the program and take away the momentum that they've been building.
Okay. Mr. Magrum, thank you. We'll open it up for questions, comments, or discussions from our committee. I don't want to put anybody on the spot here, but especially our 3A Northern people, I'm sure the committee would love to hear your opinions on this. So we'd be looking maybe at Mr. Cottrell or Mr. Pearson. Maybe your thoughts on this if you'd like to share them, or if you don't, that's fine too. Also, our 5A Northern people, if you'd like to chime in on this as well. So, Mr. Cottrell.
Hey, Rob Cottrell, 3A North, Sparks High School. We did take a vote on this at our last athletic director meeting. Chris was gracious enough to bring this up before our last AD meeting, and it was 6-3 no. Not in favor of having Hug move down. I know Chris talks about, the wins, but that's basically when you look at the competitiveness in the 3A, us and Hug both really struggle in the sports of baseball and softball, playing against everyone else in 3A, a lot of 10-run losses. So I'm not exactly sure that would be the best answer for them. Maybe almost an independent type situation would help build their program more. When you look at their enrollment compared to, everyone else's, that it is double. So that's just the comments from our 3A meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Cottrell. Mr. Levitt, you have your hand up. And Mr. Levitt, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Bart. I just wanted to chime in a little bit. One of the big differences, Chris pointed out the fact that we don't have a 4A for our schools that are not competitive in the 5A to slip to. to allow them opportunities to grow, do things to build their program. The other thing that I think needs to be pointed out or should be pointed out here is from a scheduling perspective, if we look at the South and I'm hearing talks about four leagues of 5 and whatever the case may be, that's with a 21 game limit on baseball. That gives them lots of opportunities to do scheduling that's non-league scheduling and fill in their schedule with some games that might be a little bit more competitive. Hug in the 5A won't have that opportunity. We've got 11 schools now in the 5A in the North for baseball. That'll be playing everybody at home and away. That's 20 of the 21 games. They'll have one open spot on their schedule to have the opportunity to go out and schedule, do something looking for a more competitive game. One more comment, and I may get in trouble for saying this, so I don't have a crystal ball, but there's a distinct possibility, I think, just looking at the news and reading the newspaper, that that 3A could lose a couple of teams after this year, and now you're in a three-year alignment and you're losing teams and don't have anybody to fill those spots with from a scheduling perspective for the 3A. So just a couple of comments and thoughts. I think the 5A North, 4A, 5A North schools all support HUG's decision to appeal this, and we certainly also respect any decisions and thoughts on the part of the 3A up here as well, and their thoughts on the matter. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Levitt. Ms. Habig, then Mr. Cottrell. Ms. Habig.
Okay, mine's a clarifying question. Because I want to make sure I'm not as familiar with everyone up north on who supported it and who didn't. So was it 3A that did not support? Okay, so 3A
Mr.
did
Cottrell,
not.
yeah, Mr. Cottrell have that answer for you.
And then 5A supported it.
Yeah, Mr. Cottrell said that the vote of the 3A people was 6-3 against.
Against it. Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yep. And then Mr. Cottrell, your hand is up again, sir, if you would unmute.
Just real quick to scheduling. I know we're looking at some sort of 3-game series where 1 or 2 teams may be dropped. So, our schedules would be full too as well, where there would only be room for possibly 1 tournament.
And then Mr. Levitt, I don't know if your hand is back up or still up.
It is back up. A question for Rob. Are you comfortable sharing with us what schools voted for HUG to move into the 3A and what schools voted against HUG for moving into the 3A?
I would have to go back and look at the notes. I can pull those up for you. I know Truckee was one school that did not vote due to the current situation at that time. I believe it was South Tahoe, Wooster, and I can't remember exactly who the third was. So I'd have to go back. I'd have to go back and look at notes. And
so more than likely kind of an east-west split on that, huh, Rob?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Mr. Art Anderson. If we could get you to unmute, sir.
Yep. Just figured it out. Art Anderson, 4A, 5A North. Just clarifying for the committee that the North 4A, 5A does support HUG going down in both baseball and softball. And again, I think especially in baseball, the fact that they didn't even have a JV program is a huge factor because most of the schools in the 4A, 5A not only have a JV program, they could also fill the freshman program if they chose to do so, just because the interest level in baseball. So we support it. I know it's a difficult thing. I don't want to pit the 4A, 5A North against the 3A North, but it would be the most successful option for HUG.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions from our committee regarding this appeal by HUG?
Hey, Bart.
Mr. Cottrell.
I just went back and looked at our notes. It was 6 votes no, two yeses. That would have been South Tahoe and Worcester, and then 2 people were neutral.
Thank you, Mr. Cottrell. Okay, if there are no further questions or comments, we would entertain a motion regarding Hug's baseball appeal from the 5A to the 3A in the north.
Art Anderson, 4A, 5A North. I make a motion to approve Hug's appeal to go down to the 3A in baseball.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Do we have a second? Going
Darvel
once.
Bell, 4A, 5A North. I second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. We have a motion on the table from Mr. Art Anderson, a second by Mr. Bell, to approve Hug's appeal in baseball from the 5A to the 3A in the north. Any further questions or comments? Ms. Wonder, I think we need to do a roll call on this one as well.
Absolutely. Phil Tao,
No.
Dallas Larson, I believe is still absent. Jason Odegaard,
No.
Rob Cottrell,
No.
Wade Pearson,
I'm on the
No.
phone on that.
No.
Paul Sullivan, I believe is still absent. Tammy Habig.
Why do I have to go first?
Okay, sorry. Let me jump down here. Art Anderson,
Yes.
Darvel Bell,
Yes.
Freeman Holbrook,
Yes.
Chris Magrum.
Yes, before I vote, I just want to say, kind of like Tony brought up earlier with it being our own school, I'm looking at this from perspective that I would vote the same for everybody, and I would vote yes if this was another school in our position.
Yeah. So what is your vote?
Yes.
Okay. Brooke Formaster. Okay. Joshua Katz,
No.
Miles Baldwin,
No.
No.
Jonathan Simons,
Yes.
Ken Parker,
Yes.
Mike Brooks,
Yeah.
Sarah Scott, I believe is still absent.
Bart, I have a tie.
So
7-7.
do I.
Fails for lack of a majority.
Correct. 7-7 tie means the motion does not pass. And therefore Hug would be 5A and the appeal would be denied. Okay, we move on for our other baseball appeals. These are all appeals in the south from the 4A to the 5A. We have 5 schools. Alphabetically, they are Bonanza, Foothill, Green Valley, Legacy, Sierra Vista. If the committee is all right with this, let's go ahead and hear all 5 appeals. And then we can vote after all 5 of them because they are all appealing 4A to 5A in the south. So let's hear first from Bonanza, and I believe we have Mr. Alcantar here from Bonanza.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can, sir. If you'd like to go ahead and kind of summarize for us why Bonanza is appealing.
Okay, we're currently, we'll be 4A again, but Bonanza wants to appeal to go up to 5A. We, with all the tournaments that, the 2 tournaments are usually in 5A tournaments, our non-league games are usually against 5A, and we're competitive. We've been competitive the last 2 years against 5A teams. And so we're recommending to go up to the 5A. The last 2 years, we've been one of the last 4 teams in the 4A. And with our baseball coach knowing some of the teams that are appealing to go up, he feels that our best interest for our kids and our program would be also going up. And our administration, my principal and administration agree with him.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions for Bonanza regarding its appeal? Okay, on page 35 of your packet, we have the appeal from Foothills baseball program to go from 4A to 5A. Mr. Polzian, I believe you're up again, sir.
Hello, welcome back. Yeah, Foothill High School would like to appeal to go from 4A to 5A in baseball. You can see there, I provided our record against the opponents who would be into 5A. You know, we were 12-12 against those teams. Our postseason record also there, 1-3. As you can see, we lost to Palo in 9 innings there in that one game. Against regular season 4A opponents who would be staying down, we were 9-3. We feel like we were successful in 5A and we will still be able to competitive in 5A. We're still only 2 years out from winning the 4A state title. And, you know, we're returning a lot of lower level players. And we feel like just the competitive balance of 5A fits better for our program rather than staying down in 4A. So I would appreciate you guys approving that appeal.
Bart, sorry.
Mr. Jackson.
Point of order, we've got to go back to the HUG vote. 5A South did not, 5A, 4A South did not register a vote.
Thank you for catching that, Mr. Jackson.
I would like to claim I did, but I didn't. Thank you, Ms. Habig.
Okay, stop right here.
Not that I wanted to vote, but
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry. This is
it's okay.
you guys.
It's all right. It happens. That's why we caught it. I'm glad we caught it now. We can finish the vote.
Yeah,
So Tammy, I know you were dying to vote.
Yeah, I didn't want to vote. That's why you skipped us, but
again, thank you for catching that, guys.
That's
I wondered why our vote total was lower than it was for the Durrell vote. That was a little bit, but I thought it was just me. So again, this is the vote on HUG baseball, the appeal from the 5A to the 3A. We have is it 4 5A Southern people to still vote? Just wonder.
Okay, circling back. Tammy Habig.
no.
Tony Polzian.
No.
Domingo Rivera. Isabel Sanchez.
No.
Okay.
I have 10 no votes and 7 yes votes. So again, that motion does not pass. Thank you for catching that. Again, we are in the process here of hearing our appeals for baseball from the 4A to the 5A in the South. Next, we would have Green Valley. That appeal is on page 33 of your packet. And I believe we have Mr. Roberts here from Green Valley. If you'd like to go ahead, sir, and unmute and kind of summarize for us, if you would, why Green Valley wishes to appeal from the 4A to the 5A in baseball.
All right, thanks, Bart. Tony, close your ears because I'm going to read exactly from a letter from my athletic administrator, David. So here we go. Green Valley High School respectfully requests a reconsideration of our placement in the 4A division for baseball in the upcoming realignment cycle. We seek to remain in the 5A division and offer the following rationale. This season, we encountered setbacks due to injuries to key players, which led to 7 underclassmen starting every game, including 1 freshman, 4 sophomores, and 2 juniors. In the past 2 years, we defeated 5 out of the 9 teams in the 5A division. In 2024, we were 7th in rubric points with 95.5, and in 2023, we were 3rd in rubric points with 117.5. In addition, we were also division champs with 27 wins. Even though our record was 7-23 versus the projected top 9 5A teams the past 2 seasons, we competed in those games with wider score margins. The difference was often due to a single inning that just got away from us. We lost only 2 senior starters and several returning players received all-region recognition. Green Valley Baseball feels we can compete against 5A teams, especially after our JV team having winning seasons during the current realignment cycle. Finally, we would like to keep the competitiveness within our area against neighborhood schools such as Foothill and Basic. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Any questions for Mr. Roberts regarding Green Valley's appeal? Mr. Cottrell, your hand is up. I don't know if you intend for it at this point or if you have a question, sir. And the hand goes down.
Nothing.
Thank you. Okay. And any questions for Mr. Roberts? Okay, we'll move on to the next appeal, and that is on page 34 of your packet. This is Legacy's appeal from the 4A to the 5A in baseball. And Ms. Habig, you are representing Legacy today. So whenever you're ready.
Kind of just to echo what everyone else is saying, we're a very competitive 4A team. I've always said I feel like the lower 5A and the higher 4A is almost the exact same. We've played our non-conference, we play 5A. We don't play any other 4A teams, and we've been competitive with everyone. We've outscored our 4A opponents 302 to 98. We lost the majority of our games against 5A, but they were all within 1 to 2 runs. We beat Gorman, which is a 5A team. Again, we lost to Faith 5-3. We lost to Reno High School 7-6. So we just feel like we feel like we belong in that 5A division. Last thing, basically, we were 24-8 last couple seasons against 4A teams, and I want to say when I counted, 20 of those were 15-run games. So we definitely feel like we belong in the 5A competitive.
Yeah. Any questions for Ms. Habig regarding Legacy's appeal? Okay. Our last baseball appeal comes from Sierra Vista. It is on page 39 of your packet. Mr. Bedowitz, thanks for your patience and hanging around, sir, as we kind of broke you up in your 2 appeals. But if you're back with us and you would like to summarize your baseball appeal, please do, sir.
It's all good. Basically, I'm saying the same thing that everyone else has said. We've been very competitive over the last 2 years, posting a 46-19 record, 19-1 in league play. Over the last 2 seasons, we've beaten 7 5A teams. Probably the most important thing, and I think that Bonanza touched on it, we're concerned with these teams, the appealing up. There's an increasingly less competitive 4A division. And we feel that it's best for our student athletes to be in that 5A division.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bedowitz regarding Sierra Vista's appeal? Okay, let's open it up all together. We've got 5 appeals on the table: Bonanza, Foothill, Green Valley, Legacy, Sierra Vista. All of them baseball, all of them appealing from the 4A to the 5A. Comments, questions, concerns, anything from our group? We can do this also in one of 2 ways, since we did combine a motion earlier. Or didn't combine a motion, we combined 2 items into 1 motion. We also have that opportunity here if the committee wishes to do that, or we can do each one of these independently.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question, Bart. I could make a motion just to approve all appeals up at one time?
For baseball in this case, yes.
Okay, Tony Polzing, 4A South. I'd like to make a motion that we approve all appeals moving from 4A to 5A in baseball.
Thank you, Mr. Polzing. Do we have a second?
Sean Fitzsimons, 2A South. I'll second the motion.
Motion by Mr. Polzian, second by Mr. Fitzsimons, to approve all 5 of the baseball appeals from the southern schools moving from the 4A to the 5A. Again, for clarification's sake, that is Bonanza, Foothill, Green Valley, Legacy, and Sierra Vista. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Okay. That motion passes. All 5 of those appeals are granted. We have 3 appeals left to hear in 1 sport. It is softball. And here we have actually 3 appeals going in the opposite direction, going down. We have Hug softball, Doral Red Rock softball, Green Valley softball. Let's go ahead and do Hug first. That appeal is on page 31 of your packet. Mr. Magram, if you would like to go ahead, sir, and summarize this one for us.
Thank you. Realistically, it's same thing. So I'm gonna try not to repeat myself a ton. Coaches put together the letter that's in the packet together, but it's really the same ideas and same kind of reasoning behind things. Softball this year was able to field the JV team for the first time in a long time, and that was with a whole lot of girls playing both JV and varsity. And then at the end of the season, we ended up having to go ahead and just scratch the last few JV games to be able to have, the numbers to compete on varsity, and just weren't able to continue that with JV. So numbers hurt for us. Same thing. If we had a 4A up here, we'd be 4A. We don't. We feel like it's a good fit there. It has been a good fit in the 3A. And competitively, that's where we align better. Looking at softball records, same thing I did for baseball. We had 6 instances of 3A versus 5A this year, and 3A was 0 for 6 against 5A schools, including one team losing to Reno High School. Sorry, Reno High School, not to pick on you too much. Their softball program did not win a 5A league game this year and still beat a 3A team. That same 3A team beat us. I know you can't just, assume that the same would happen there. But from what we have seen competing in the league, making that jump to 5A, it's going to hurt the program and, put the girls in a tough spot. We feel that the 3A really is the better placement for us, just like we did for baseball. And we're just looking to stay in the league we've been competing in, and not move up in that one sport based on our enrollment, like we are other sports, and trying to make the best of it.
Thank you, Mr. Macron. I believe your coach is also here with us. Ms. Fierro, if you have joined us, is there anything you wish to add?
Yes, I would like to add a couple of things. So as previously mentioned, from another school's appeal, we are a Title I school, so that means funds are really hard to come by for our students. We started this year with 26 girls, and we finished with 15, and I had to provide gloves and cleats and nearly everything to the girls to be able to play the sport. We lose a lot of girls from having family issues to supporting their families with jobs, from babysitting and anything else. So moving up to 5A would make it really difficult to continue to field a team when we aren't playing competitive games. This year was a record for me. This is my second year coaching, but we were able to play 4 full games that were 7 innings long. Every other game we played in was run ruled. And when I've looked at previous statistics from other coaches, the one time when we did play a 5A school, we ended up getting run ruled by them, and it was Bishop Minogue, I believe, in 2021. So I do not believe that we should be moving up to the 5A because of how new and inexperienced the girls are, and the lack of girls that are even capable of trying to come out to play a sport.
Thank you, Coach. Any questions for HUG regarding its appeal in softball from the 5A to the 3A in the North? Okay. At this point, then, we would entertain a motion from any voting member of our committee regarding HUG's appeal. Ms. Habig, your hand is up first. And now it's down. Mr. Art Anderson.
I will make a motion for Art Anderson, 4A5A North. I'll make a motion for HUG softball to go remain in the 3A or go down to the 3A.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Do we have a second?
Garble Bell, 4A5A North. I second.
Motion on the table by Mr. Art Anderson, seconded by Mr. Bell, to approve HUG's appeal in softball from the 5A to the 3A. Any further questions or comments? And again, Mr. Polzian.
Tony, 4A5A South. Have we heard from the 3A North on this one yet?
Not
That was my
specifically,
question
no.
too.
This was the vote at our last AD meeting was for HUG baseball and softball, 6-2-2, 6 against, 2-4, 2 neutral.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Let's go a roll call again on this one, please. Ms. Wonder, whenever you're ready, if we want to start with the 3A North on this.
Rob Kittrell,
No.
Wade Pearson,
No.
Paul Sullivan, I believe is absent. Do we want to jump to the 5A North or do we want to?
I'd say go 3A, then 5A, then.
Okay, perfect. Phil Tao,
No.
Dallas Larson, I believe is still absent. Jason Odegaard.
No.
Okay. Art Anderson,
Yes.
Darval Bell,
Yes.
Freeman Holbrook,
Yes.
Chris Magram,
Yes.
Tammy Habig,
No.
Tony Polzin,
No.
Domingo Rivera, Isabel Sanchez,
No.
Brooke Formaster, Joshua Katz,
No.
Mike Baldwin,
No.
David Vick,
No.
Jennifer Simons,
No.
Ken Parker,
Yes.
Mike Brooks,
No.
Sarah Scott. Okay.
By a vote of 12-5, the motion fails. And Hug's appeal is denied. We will move on to the two other appeals we have. These are kind of go together, but we can certainly vote on these separately. They are from Durrell Red Rock and Green Valley softball. They are both appeals to go from the 5A to the 4A. And if you'll recall, the initial recommendation from the NIAA office did have those two schools in the 4A. Our committee chose to move the line by our committee's prerogative. They did so to include Green Valley and Durrell in the 5A group. Those two schools are now appealing to go back into the 4A group. Mr. Roberts, I believe you are still with us. If you'd like to go ahead and kind of summarize for us Green Valley's appeal, sir.
Yep, thank you. Again, I just have a letter here from my athletic administrator. Green Valley High School respectfully requests a reconsideration of our placement in the 5A division for softball in the upcoming realignment cycle. We seek to move down to the 4A division and offer the following rationale in support of our appeal. Green Valley High School softball has a 4-20 record against the top 7 teams in the projected 5A alignment. The team trails Bishop Gorman by 27 points and Basic by 19, creating a clear separation between 5 and 4A divisions between Basic and Green Valley. Aside from a 3-year stretch when Green Valley benefited from having an exceptional pitcher, significantly shifting the competitive balance, the team has gone 5-43 against the top 7 teams over the past decade. Our average margin of defeat was 7.5 runs per game from 2016 to 2020. And again, in 24-25, the record against this season's 12 4A playoff teams was 28-24, reflecting a more competitive balance. Green Valley softball win-loss results versus the top 7 teams in the 5A, consisting of Palo, Centennial, Shadow Ridge, Liberty, Bishop, Gorman, Arborview, and Coronado were as follows. 2016 to 2020, our record was 1-23. 21 to 23, our record was 24-5 with our pitcher who was next level and then some. And then 24-25, our record was 4-20 against those teams. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Any questions for Mr. Roberts regarding Green Valley's appeal? Okay. On page 41 of your packet is the information from Durrell Academy Red Rock regarding its appeal in softball, also to go from 5A to 4A. And Ms. Petit, if you're still with us, we'll go ahead and turn the floor over to you to summarize Durrell's appeal for us.
Thanks, Bart. Thank you guys again for your time and the chance to advocate for Durrell's softball team to be reinstated to 4A. Our softball program is still very young, like our volleyball program. It's just 4 years old. This year, we graduated our first 2 players who have been with us from freshman through senior year. Reaching the state championship this season was also an accomplishment for our team, but it doesn't mean we're ready for 5A. The original recommendation to keep us in 4A reflected where we are in our growth, and we fully support that. Part of the reconsideration at the original realignment meeting the other week was based on the inaccurate claim that we made it to the state championship 2 years in a row, which we did not. This was our first year making it. This year we finished first in the Sky League, showing real progress, but when we made it to the state championships, we lost both games by mercy rule to Basic, 17-6, and then in the third inning, 15-0. That indicates we still have a lot of work to do before competing at a 5A level. In previous years, we exited earlier in the playoffs as detailed in your packet, all of which support why we want and should remain in 4A. We have approximately 1,100 high school students, and currently we don't have a JV team and only had 18 athletes try out this year, and our coach made no cuts. Moving up to 5A now when we're still growing and building depth risks discouraging participation and damaging the positive, hardworking team culture our new coaching staff has worked hard to establish. The info in your packet also shows the top 5A team scored 144 points more than us on the rubric, with the top 5 teams averaging more than 100 points above us. Even the teams just above us, including Basic, the back-to-back state champions for 4A, rank more than 30 points ahead. These numbers make it clear we're not ready for 5A competition. We are just asking for the opportunity to continue to grow a competitive program without being set up to fail. As a young and newly developed team, we are simply asking for a fair chance to build something strong. Thank you again for hearing our appeal for softball.
Thank you. Any questions for Doral Academy Red Rock regarding its appeal? We will open it up to our committee for any discussion, questions, comments on these two appeals, Doral Academy Red Rock and Green Valley Softball, both from the 5A to the 4A.
Can I ask a question? Did Doral play any of the realigned 5A schools this past year or no?
Any of the realigned?
Yeah, did you play any 5A schools?
We played Faith in a tournament, like at the very beginning of the season. It was like a 3A, 6A tournament in Arizona or California.
How did that game wind up?
We beat Faith.
Yeah, Faith has been aligned to the 4A.
Oh, okay. Then that's the only team that I know of that we played that's 5A.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Doral would have played Basic as Ms. Petit mentioned in the 4A state championship games. Basic has been designated by this committee for recommendation for the 5A in softball. Those two games were on championship day. I thought you met Basic also earlier in that tournament.
We did at the semifinals.
Yeah, but Doral would have won that game. It was like 4-2 or something like that. It was
in the semifinals we beat Basic, and then in the finals we definitely did not do well.
Yeah, both I was actually there. Both of those games were indeed mercy rule games.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah, the thing of the baseball and softball, especially between 5A and 4A, is if you're down here and you see it, there's such a canyon between those two divisions in both of these sports. Bart, you saw a lot of it. Tim, you've been down here and seen it. Like 5A baseball and softball and 4A baseball and softball, they are so night and day compared to one another. It's almost similar to like girls soccer, so it's hard to compare success in one league and then moving up. I just to throw that out there because I've seen a lot of 4A softball over the last couple of years, and it's I hate to say this on the record, it's not great.
So there's work that can be done. Yes. I would certainly admit to that in a lot of sports. Other questions or comments from our committee? If not, at this time, we would entertain a motion. We heard Green Valley first. Let's go entertain a motion on Green Valley's appeal from the 5A to the 4A in softball. We'll give it one more shot. Green Valley's appeal from the 5A to the 4A in softball. Do we have a motion? Please indicate by unmuting and saying so. Going once, going twice. Appeal denied for lack of a motion. Doral Academy's appeal from the 5A to the 4A in softball. Do we have a motion? Give this one more try again. Doral Academy Red Rocks appeal in softball from the 5A to the 4A. Do we have a motion? Please indicate by unmuting and saying so. Going once, going twice. Doral Academy's appeal in softball is denied due to a lack of a motion. Okay. Unless we have somebody present at any of our locations who wishes to appeal on behalf of their school, then I believe we have concluded our appeals. Mr. Jackson or Ms. Wonder, anybody in the NIAA office?
No.
No.
Okay. All right, that concludes our appeals. Do we need a break for a couple minutes for everybody to run to the restroom or grab a drink, or do we just want to continue on with item number 8, our tournament formats?
I see Fitzsimon's nodding yes. Tammy definitely nodding yes.
To which part? That was a two-part question.
Yes, a break.
A break? Okay. Why don't we reconvene at 10:55? That'll give us a few minutes to run to the restroom if you need to and get a drink or the snack. In the meantime, just hang tight. We'll be back at 10:55. Thank you, everyone. I would ask that you mute just to make sure, because we're not stopping the YouTube broadcast at this point. We'll get started again in 1 minute, everybody. One more minute. Okay, thank you everybody for your patience. We will resume our meeting. And let's move on to agenda item number 8, which is our tournament formats for wrestling and for our spring sports. As you'll recall, we tabled the wrestling format at a previous meeting to have further discussion, as the proposal coming from our office for this committee is a little bit of a change from what we currently have. If you look at page 45 in your packet, and that's what's on the screen for you as well right now, you see our current format for the postseason in wrestling. This does not take into account region tournaments. It's simply our state tournaments. In the 5A, we have the top 6 in each half of the state. For a 12-person bracket, the 4A is South only. Those are 2 region tournaments that feed 6 wrestlers in each into the 12-person bracket at state. The 3A, the 2A, and our girls division are all top 4 in each half of the state to the quarterfinals. The NIAA has proposed a slight change in that in the 5A and the 4A to top 4 in each half of the state. And you can see the rationale at the bottom of the page. When we start looking at top 6 qualifiers into state, we're really talking about half or more than half of the starting lineups advancing to state, with 11 teams in the 5A North, 12 in the 5A South, and 11 each in the 4A Desert and Mountain. You're not eliminating a whole lot of kids necessarily at regionals in that. At the end of the day, this is my suggestion. It is only my suggestion. I talked it over with Mr. Jackson. I don't have a vote in this. This committee is the one who votes. The people who vote are on this committee. They will offer up the recommendation that will go to our Board of Control next week. We'll open it up at this point for discussion here from our group. We've heard some comments from the wrestling coaches. You've gotten some emails, I think, from wrestling coaches. It's yours, committee, to discuss. If anybody would like to comment. Mr. Art Anderson and then Mr. Pearson.
Art Anderson, 4A, 5A North. I have a comment. First, and I also have a question. Is there any appetite from the 4A South to make some kind of combination state championship, to look at the numbers? And I definitely don't like the idea of decreasing the opportunities for kids to be in the state competition. I think we've gone across the board with other sports and not decreased it, and then leave that up to the board to decide if that's what they actually want to do. So I would be in favor of not only increasing the 5A back to 6, but then also seeing if the 4A wants to join the 5A in an actual state championship, or if they still just want to be by themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Pearson, and then Ms. Habig. Mr. Pearson, you may need to unmute.
Sorry about that.
No
Wade
worries.
Pearson, Spring Creek. My camera just flickers in and out nonstop. So, couple things. First thing I'd like to add with the, just so everybody's aware, when you talk about qualifiers, and wrestling's a whole different animal where, and most of you know, they do extra qualifiers. So when you say 6 out of 11 is 50%. Technically, there could be 50, 60 more wrestlers in there in a region going into it. So we do allow extra qualifiers. So it's, when you look at the teams, it's not always just 11 teams and half more going. And that was my big thing with the 4A, 5A. Obviously, I'd be in favor of being a wrestling fan, and all the years I've coached wrestling in the state of Nevada, in favor of the when we just had the 4A, 5A combined technically back in the day, and it was an awesome tournament. And shooting go down to a 16-man bracket, you keep it, that bracketing side of things where it's an 8 or 16, 12. I mean, if you're going to go 12, you might as well go 16. If you're going to go, that one in the middle is you're still doing that round. Well, why not make it a full round? And time is not a major issue with running a tournament. So, I mean, that's my side on the 5A, 4A thing also. But I want to address one other thing in the 3A, just so, and I'm going to propose also with the number of teams that we have, and wrestling's different. And I thought it would possibly match up with track or one of the individual sports. With the numbers of teams, the North has 10 in the 3A and the South has 6. And when we go 4 and 4, that's not very equitable. We've done it over the years where we went 5 and 3. I know we went 5 and 3. In the South had 5 and the North had 3 one time period. And then prior to that, we went 3 in the South, 5 in the North. And I'm going to propose that down the road with the 3A. Try to go with a 5 and 3 to keep that 8-man bracket. When you go 5 from the North, and you look at the possibility of teams, it's 5 out of that 10, that's 50%. Same thing in the South, 3 out of 6, that's 50%. That's equal. And right now, when it sits, the 3A in the North, 4 out of 10 is 40%. And then 4 out of 6 is 67% are qualifying from the South. So I don't know what approach we take there on that side of things. But I think first, let's figure out the 5A, 4A stuff, and then we can move into the 3A. Just my thoughts.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Ms. Habig, then Mr. Polzian.
So I have to apologize ahead. I'm wrestling's probably the one sport that I don't know as much about. But as Bart had said before, we got a lot of emails from the people we represent. So I feel like it's important. I know Tony's gonna probably bring up some of this as well. But I feel like we need to make some of these points that one of the biggest ones I saw was, and I don't know if the girls is even listed on here, but pretty much everyone has said don't limit the girls to what it because it's limiting it too much. A lot of people have said that they don't like the shrinking amount. They want to keep it where it's at. I think I know that was brought up the 4A to join in with the 5A. I feel like wrestling is another one of those sports. Watching it, it's a very drastic difference down here. I don't know about up north, but down here looking at the 5A, the top of the 5A and the 4A, it's another one of those that it's drastic. So those are just a few things. I'm sure Tony's going to add a few more from what people are letting us know.
Thank you, Ms. Habig. Mr. Polzian.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback, I believe it was Coach Pearson that may have brought this up. Or maybe it was Art with the regional down here. Keep in mind, like 4A has 2 regions, 5A has 1 region. Understand that there's more teams in 4A, but we also have a lot of, back to Bart's point, half a lineup. We have kids now that are placing in the state tournament who aren't even scoring wrestlers during dual meets for some of these schools. So these region seedings are based on dual records. So we have kids finishing second, in these regions that were never even scoring wrestlers all year. They're just showing up at regionals as extras. So I do know at a minimum, like reducing the amount of kids is that's the last thing the coaches in the South want. I think every wrestling coach across America wants some version of a super state, even a dual team state championship at some point, like some other places. But definitely reducing it. I don't know that any coach down here is in favor of that at all, based on the emails that I have received from people.
Thank you, Mr. Polzian. Mr. Art Anderson.
Okay, thank you. Art Anderson, 485A North. I definitely understand that the very top of the 5A is extremely good wrestlers, mostly attending Slam Academy. But the competition then between the very top of the 4A, I imagine, has to be, I mean, pretty close to being. I know one year the heavyweight from Gorman was in the 4A. The next year he was in the 5A and he won the 5A state championship. So I think giving these kids the opportunity to compete at that highest level in what we're calling a state championship, when they compete in these big tournaments all year long, I think we do a disservice to them, especially when the state championship is up north and there's no reason for any of the 4A schools to go. They just get to have their state championship by themselves. I maybe they are in favor of that. I just want to see if there's an opportunity that at least this is the one sport where we combine both and we see if it works.
Art, real quick, Art, are you saying that you want to just see all 5 divisions plus the girls at one state championship, or are you saying you want to put the 4A and the 5A back together for state?
I would like to see the 4A, 5A back together, and increase it to a 16-man bracket if possible. And I don't know if it would be fair to do 5 wrestlers from the 5A in each one of their regions, 3 wrestlers from the 4A, or even if we go for the next 3 years and we do 4, 4, and 4, and we cross bracket it, and we at least give the large schools an opportunity, because you're right, there's a lot of there's only a handful of schools that are actually going to win, at least the way the tournament is set up, that are going to win a tournament state championship. I think it might only go to like possibly 4 or 5 schools in a stretch of any year. But you can at least give these wrestlers the opportunity, that especially that want to go on to the next level, the opportunity to compete at that highest level. And maybe I'm completely wrong with the 4A South, that they don't have any wrestlers that want to go on to the next level, but I have to think that there are some still there.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions from our committee?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Mike Brooks, Persian County.
Yeah, Mr. Brooks.
Yeah, well, first question is if we set this tournament format for this upcoming school year, is because it's a 3-year cycle, are we stuck with it for 3 years, or are we able to revisit this next year?
We are planning to have all formats be the same for all 3 years.
Yeah, okay. Because just speaking specifically on 2A, 1A wrestling, I think last year both of us had about 8 schools in the north and south, but West Wendover, one of the schools with more participants, has moved up to the north for wrestling, and the north is also adding Silver Stage, who's coming off probation, and Sierra Lutheran, who's going to be starting a program. So I think kind of like Mr. Pearson said, it's going to be 11 or 12 teams in the north versus maybe 6 or 7 in the south. So I think maybe visiting the topic of maybe 5 qualifiers in the north versus 3 in the south would be a better option. But I don't know if we were able to just see how it went this year and then maybe adjust next year, or if it's intended for 3 years, then maybe we might need to make a change now. I don't know.
I don't want to speak for our board of control.
Yeah.
They have their own voices. They have their own opinions. I don't imagine, and Mr. Jackson, feel free to chime in on this as well. I don't imagine this is something they'd want to hear year after year. They'd like to have something set for 3 years. But again, I'm not going to tell you that that's gospel by any means.
Well, I'm going to tell them that it's pretty much gospel, because if you remember correctly at the last board meeting, the one direction I was given in my evaluation was to establish multiple years, multiple sites, and not, they gave me a specific direction that I am to come up with the next years out.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be very careful about saying we're going to do it this year, this way, and this way next year, because I cannot support that just because of the fact that I have been given my direction by the board to not. Now, the board can go back on that and say, no, never mind, poo-poo that directive and we move on. But I would tell you that from my standpoint, I would not bring that forward from my position. This committee wants to bring it forward. The committee can bring it forward, but I think we need to establish it and hold it for 3.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Polsey and Mr. Anderson, you have your hands up real quick. I just want to point out again to everybody, what you see here and proposed, that's what came from our office. As this committee has done several times throughout, just because this is proposed doesn't mean that's what you have to do. You've got the option here to do what you want to do, what you want to send forward to the Board of Control, what you as a committee feel is the best pathway forward. Mr. Polsey.
Thanks, Bart. Yeah, I want to bring up just a couple of things to address the equal representation that we're hearing from the lower levels. I think back when 4A, 5A was combined, the South coaches were preaching that for years, and it was never a positive thing. So be careful with that one. My question though is, we've heard repeatedly how successful past this last state wrestling tournament was, correct? Like just with attendance, financially, it was fantastic. What is your office's rationale for wanting to decrease from 6 to 4, just for our knowledge?
I look at it, Mr. Jackson, go ahead and I'll follow.
I'm gonna come at it from a different perspective. One, it was successful, Tony, but the reason it was so successful is we were gifted quite a bit. And that gift is probably not going to be available to us in the future. So that's one of the reasons it was so successful. The other thing we were looking at was a consistency across the board, and 4 and 4 and 4. You see, there's a consistency there. The other thing we're hearing loud and clear from districts is travel expense, travel costs to schools. We're also dealing with the increased costs of officials and then the travel costs associated with the officials. Now, those are not kid problems. Those are our problems. But when we're running a state tournament, we have to consider all of those things, especially if the expansion to include girls continues down the path it's going, which it will, should not increase our costs for tournament yet, but it will eventually as it grows. We're hopeful for that. So we're just trying to be, from my perspective, once again, like Bart said, this is a proposal from our office. We have already maintained and supported the current format. But looking forward, we are looking at the other situations that we're facing, in that we've heard loud and clear from the coaches, from the schools, and from the board members that the 4A standalone division or a 5A standalone division at a state tournament is being slighted. So we're feeling the pressure to do exactly what Mr. Anderson said, which is why I wanted clarification, whether it was to bring the 4A and 5A together or to bring them all to one location. I don't know if we can sell that in some formats, but at the same time, we have to look at what it would take for us to do such a thing. This would be one of those areas where we could perhaps put them together. Right now, I can tell you that if we have a state championship in the proposed or the current in the South with 5 divisions, we don't have a facility capable of hosting it. We don't have access to one that we can afford and that we can do. That being said, we run into the situation where we've been before, where the individual groups that help support wrestling statewide get to the point where they can't do multiple sites in the same day. And then we run into officials doing multiple sites in the same day. So there's a lot of things that play in this that may be beneficial in financial, operational, and implementation. But at the same time, what's up there is current. We've been supporting it. And we're not telling you got to go with the proposed. We're not going saying you have to stay with the current. We're just throwing out suggestions, and whatever this committee agrees to, we take it back to the board, and then we have to work it out with that as well. So that's one of the reasons why I'm concerned financially, obviously, operationally, and implementation.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Again, you see my rationale at the bottom of the page when we start looking at teams, and Mr. Pearson is 100% right when he brings this up, that you do have as many as 4 extra wrestlers on a team that can be slotted in. I also look at that 4A situation and know that not every desert or every mountain school is filling all 14 weight classes when they go to region. I look at it and it's a terribly unfair comparison, right? But we look at what we do with track, what we do with swimming, with the individual type sports where we take people forward to state. Well, track, we are limited by a track, right? We have 8 lanes. That's the reason we do 8. Swimming, most of the pools, we have 8 lanes. That's the reason we do 8. Cross country, we do have extra qualifiers. We're not limited. Wrestling, we're also not limited. We don't have a certain number of lanes or a certain number of matches. I look at it as somebody who I guess thinks state should be elite, the very best of the very best. We've also had situations the last several years where our qualifiers for state are top 6 that advance because of injury, illness, and eligibility. By the time we get there, really aren't the top 6 anymore. It's number 7, it's number 8 that sometimes join in. Not all the time, but it does happen. Again, whatever this committee decides, that's what this committee decides to push forward to the Board of Control. It's not Bart Davis's proposal. It's not anything to do with any of that. You're not going to break my heart if you look at me and go, what you proposed is not right. It's not what we like. We're going to do something else. Mr. Art Anderson.
Thank you, Art Anderson, 4A5A North. Just going back to when I first started off as AD 20 years ago, almost, and then was a wrestling coach before that. At one point, for those of you guys that don't know, the largest classification had a 16-man bracket. We had 15 wrestlers in the state championship, 5 from the north and 10 from the south. And those were excellent state championships. I mean, it was Cimarron went on a run for a while. Las Vegas High School went on a run for a while. And the North, granted, we never broke into the actual, never claimed a team state championship, but we have plenty of individual state champions. Sorry, that's my phone. So I just feel, especially if there isn't an opportunity for the NIAA to have the board to approve, the NIAA to stay in Fallon or go to Winnemucca over the course of the next 3 years, that leaving that 4A in the South by themselves and on a different weekend, because obviously their coaches are coming up for the girls' state tournament as well, just doesn't make any sense to me. And I agree that the numbers should not be even for all 4 regions, but that there should be the 5A and the 4A should be combined. That's the only way I see it. I see creating a 16-man bracket that would be give every kid an opportunity to compete at that highest level in the same tournament that everybody else is competing in. I think that is something we can at least present to the board and then let the board shake it out.
You brought up something there, Mr. Anderson, regarding tournaments in Fallon or in Winnemucca. Mr. Jackson, I don't know if you want to touch that, or it's discussions we've had as a staff. I don't know if you want to get into it or not.
Preferably not, but the cat's out of the bag. We are still looking to secure a venue for state wrestling for next year. While we had a great time at Fallon, we are not sure the dates will line up correctly. If they don't line up correctly, we are not going to move the state championship again like we did last year at the last minute. That was not conducive to a lot of things that went on with the schedules, with regional qualifying stuff and all the other things that went into that. So we're still looking for the venue to be secured. And I don't disagree with you. My philosophy is you bring them all together and you have a tournament. I mean, I agree with that 100%. And I would like to get to that point. I think it's something we should do. I don't think any division, whether it be a 4A in the South or a 4A in the North, if it ever happened, should be left alone. I think they should all be together as best we can do. So I'd like to get to that point as well. My only concern would be this, with combining the 4A and 5A into one for the state championship. Is there a reason for us to be in the 4A and the 5A then in the regular season? Because there's not. If we were to do this as an association, not that I'm against it. I'm an old school. I played basketball, but was raised by wrestlers, so I understand. Heavyweight to heavyweight to heavyweight, get them all into one bracket and let's go. But at the same time, if we were to do this, this kind of leads back towards something Mr. Davis and I have been pushing for a long time. It really doesn't matter who you play in a regular season. It doesn't matter who you wrestle in the regular season. If you seed it out, you seed it out. And maybe that's something you guys have the floor right now. So I'd say take advantage of it and have the discussion.
Mr. Anthony, your hand is up.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Bart. Art, I hear you 100%. I'm gonna play a little bit of a devil's advocate though. Like Bart stated, 4A, I believe in the South struggles immensely to field squads. So even though you might see those numbers are high as far as schools are concerned, the amount of kids that are actually fielding those spots are challenged. Now, don't get me wrong, we've got some schools that do a great job of fielding teams, but not all. So I don't know if it's the right move to bring that 4A and 5A together. I know we've got a rubric. That's why we've got the teams where they're laid out. I'm going to say two more comments. One would be that if we did go to your concept of, in the past where you had 5 from the North, 10 from the South, I think that you'll see even more of a disparity with the number of teams that you'd want to see 4 in the North, 12 in the South. Again, just based off of numbers and breaking up into that situation. And Tim's heard me before. Pam hates when I bring it up, but why are we going to say 4A, 5A? We could go super state, and you can bring the 1A, because I can tell you there's some 1A, 2A, 3A kids that could probably dominate some of our 4A, 5A kids. And it's just that's the nature of wrestling and how it's set up with the weight classes. So just want to just make those comments, and I'll turn off.
Thank you, Mr. Anthian. Other comments from our committee, other questions, other proposals? Anything's on the table right now. If there's not any further discussion, if anybody would like to take a stab here at a motion on what they would like to see for the format for postseason, for state specifically in wrestling, here's your shot. Mr. Art Anderson.
Art Anderson, 5A, 4A North. Can we make the proposal based on, is it overall, does the proposal have to include every single classification, or can I make a proposal just including the North and the South? 4A, 5A.
In the end, we're going to have something to take forward to the board for all classifications. I would prefer it all come in one together, but this may be where I need to defer to legal counsel on this one too. I don't know if we can piecemeal this or if we need to have everything all together on this. I know, Mr. Art Anderson, you're kind of looking at it from a standpoint of you're over top of the 4A, 5A, and I get that part. But Mr. Paul Anderson, what would you suggest here?
Well, looking at the agenda, I think you can do it either way. I mean, you're just trying to put together formats. So if it takes piecemeal for a particular sport, I think you can do that, or it could be done all in one shot. So
okay.
What Art's asking, I think, is certainly within the realm of the agenda as stated.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Paul Anderson. Mr. Art Anderson.
Also, just want to make a comment real quick about girls wrestling, and how quickly it is growing. And if we are going to leave it at 4 for the next, I'm just worried that 3 years, we're taking a lot of opportunities away from girls in the future. If we don't look at even discussing possibly raise that one to 5 from the north, 5 from the south, simply because it's grown so much every year from that aspect. And we're putting them all into one classification. I just want to throw that out there too, is I just feel that in 3 years, that's going to explode even bigger. So,
Mr. Jackson, speaking of cats out of bags.
So Art, just so you know that the board agenda went to the members yesterday, and it's been posted. We're going to make a recommendation that we sanction girls wrestling for 26-27 officially, leaving it alone for 25-26 as it is, which will then result in us having to bring back some variation or some grouping of people to discuss what the postseason will look like for 26, 27, 27, 28. I think that leaving it alone for this year, this is not me telling you what to do or how to make a motion or any of that, but leaving it alone for this year is in the best interest of what we're trying to accomplish. I have talked to some coaches and I think they're on board with it for this year alone. And then we can look at more of a representation, because we are seeing a natural growth of the sport percentile wise, and the growth is changing due to the location of the sample. In other words, we're seeing 12% growth across the state, but 12% growth in one section of the state with more schools growing it is a larger number than it is in the south or in another section of the state. So we're going to look at that. So my recommendation to this committee on girls wrestling is that we leave it alone for this year, because that's what I'm going to recommend the board approve at the meeting on Tuesday or Wednesday when we get to that item, so that we can then come back together and say, okay, now that we've sanctioned it, what's our bracket going to look like for postseason and how are we going to get there?
And that's where the minefield starts to come into play of once we sanction girls wrestling, now we can break girls into classifications in girls wrestling as well. And that's, we start trampling all over the place right now if we anticipate what the board's going to do. Mr. Pearson, then Mr. Polzin.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, I think, Art, if you want to go ahead and do the 4A, 5A. And then I think, I don't know if we can put them all together, because what we're talking to 3A, and I don't, after listening to Brooks with numbers and representation, that's going to be kind of a whole different animal. So I wonder if we can piece these two differently.
I believe, thank you, Mr. Pearson. I'm sorry for jumping on you there. Yeah, I believe based on what Mr. Paul Anderson said, if we wanted to, we could make 5 individual motions here for 5A, for 4A, for 3A, 2A, so forth. And then just take that all forward to the board. But again, I'll leave that to the committee and what they wish to do. Mr. Polzin.
Yeah, Tony Polzin, 4A, 5A South. And just kind of following up what Ed said and supporting our coaches in the South, I'd like to make a motion that we keep everything as is, and let the Board of Control make that decision if they would like to reduce it. And then I can also add to then revisit girls wrestling then after it becomes a sanctioned sport, as staff sees necessary. Does that motion work?
For clarification, Mr. Polzin, what I've highlighted there on the screen is what you'd like to have going forward for the start of this cycle. Okay.
Yeah, that is correct. That's what the coaches in the South would like to see happen, yes.
Okay. We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Polzin, second by Ms. Habig, to keep the current format as it sits at the top of your screen there, 6 in each half of the state, 5A, 6 in each region in the South, in the 4A, top 4 in each half of the state, 3A, 2A, and girls. Mr. Pearson.
Yeah, I just want to revisit what I've talked about earlier with the 3A, because with the numbers of teams, and putting that into the top 4. I'm looking at north, south. North has 10 again. South has 6. And with the 6 teams, the Equipo or Quipo, whatever, sorry, I pronounced it wrong. I'm sure they didn't have wrestling last year. So we don't know if there's going to be total 6. And I know on our end, the Debbie Smith, we don't know for sure there either, but they're listed to be in there. But when you look at representation, and I'm a firm believer that we should go with a 5 for the North, 3 from the South. We've done this in past. It's actually went both ways. Like I said earlier, one realignment. We went 3 from the North and 5 from the South based off teams. And then prior to that, it was vice versa. So I'm not in favor of the 4 and 4 at the 3A level. And from hearing from Mr. Brooks, the 2A might have that same issue also. So I just wanted to chime in on that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Any other comments, questions, discussions here on this motion? Mr. Fitzsimons.
Yeah, and discussing with Mr. Brooks as well, we might have to pull out the 2A. We just, like Mr. Jackson said, we may not have that opportunity next year to maybe retool that, even though it sounds like we'll be doing that with girls wrestling, hopefully. Most people don't know that there's 2A. It's also 1A teams are combined, 1A, 2A, but the South has some numbers, but the North has more teams. So we're possibly, maybe looking at a 5 versus 3. But I mean, again, as a 2A president, we could keep it this way, but it's risky, according to Mike Brooks and myself, because again, we don't want to get into the habit of having to come back and change it after a year. I'll let Mr. Brooks expand on that if he needs to.
Mr. Brooks, anything you'd like to add on that?
No, not too much. Just I don't know. I think the 3 years really a hold up. If we had a sample year, since it's typically 2 years, but it's 3 this time. Maybe if we had a sample year and we could adjust how we see fit, because we're trying to keep it fair for everybody, but we don't know how it's going to play out. With one region looks like they'll have closer to twice as many kids next year, depending on, but I mean, it's also small schools. So you don't really know what the numbers are going to look like. Some year you have 20 and some year you have 5, you never know. So be a lot easier if we could do it as decide it in the middle of the season, but I don't think that's going to be an option. So
Mr. Polsey and then Mr. Anderson.
Go ahead and let Art go first. I'm going to amend my motion.
Okay. Mr. Art Anderson.
Art Anderson, 5A4A North. I just wanted to see if there could be amending to that proposal before we finally start voting on it, to see just one last chance. So, and to hear from the South, and then Tony can answer to this. There's no chance the 4A wants to join the 5A in a state tournament, even if the numbers are a little skewed differently, 5-3. Simply they enjoy having their standalone state tournament, and I know they don't enjoy it, but they're okay with their standalone state tournament, because I just think this is an opportunity to at least try something for the next 3 years, and force the NIAA board to make a decision on that, whether they support it or not. But if we don't even take that opportunity, then it's going to be status quo.
Any further discussion? Mr. Anderson's comments? Anybody in the South wish to address this?
Yeah, Tony, 4A, 5A South. Just what we're hearing from our coaches is they would like everything to remain the same. Just as far as those state tournaments go, and with that regard, I'll withdraw my motion because I would like to make a different one if possible. I mean, I know we're running out of time to deal with wrestling here, and it's been put off long enough. I mean, currently, like I said, with the coaches that we've spoken to, and I know that a lot of coaches speak to my coach here at Foothill, like the concern, we don't want to lose representation at the state tournament. That's the biggest thing. And to allude to X, there is an exponential difference in all sports, really, to be honest, between 4 and 5A. Not just wrestling. In all sports, you see a pretty wide divide there. So that's what I'm hearing from the South. Tammy can expound on that too. I think she's probably hearing a lot of the same things from the coaches that she speaks to as well.
Ms. Habig, did you want to comment?
Yeah, exactly what Tony said. I don't necessarily think Art's proposal is a bad thing. I think with it being the 3-year cycle, our coaches, they want to keep it like it is.
Okay, Mr. Polzian, you said you wish to withdraw your motion?
Yeah, just in light of the conversation that Mr. Brooks, Mr. Fitzsimons said, I'll just make a motion that the 5A, 4A South remain the same. We'll do that as a standalone, and then 3A, 2A, and then girls wrestling we can do separate. But just like to make a motion that for right now we currently keep 5A, 4A South the same, and send it to the board. And if they wish to make changes, they can make changes there.
Thank you, Mr. Polzian. Point of clarification here, Mr. Paul Anderson. We need the same second here.
Yes. So Ms. Habig would have to second that.
That's what I thought. Ms. Habig?
Yes, I will second that.
Thank you. Motion on the table for Mr. Polzian, seconded by Ms. Habig, to keep 5A and 4A currently as shown at the top of the page, whatever page this is, page 45. Keep it current and roll that into the next cycle. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Okay. I think we can take this one just as a group vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Okay, 5A, 4A part of it's good. Now we tackle 3A and or 2A and or girls. Any further comments here? Anybody wishing to make a motion here? Mr. Odegaard.
Yeah, thank you, Bart. Jason Odegaard, 3A South. I certainly understand Wade's thoughts on the 3A in terms of representation. If we look at what ifs, though, he brought up Akipo. They didn't have a team before, so we don't know what that's going to look like. He also mentioned we don't know about Debbie Smith. Since this is a 3-year realignment cycle, we also don't know about Tahoe Truckee and South Tahoe, where they're going to stand in a short amount of time. At one point we thought we were losing at least one, if not both, earlier this spring. So then if you look ahead, then the numbers aren't as drastically different. So I think we need to be careful with those types of projections.
Thank you, sir. To share, this is the alignment we currently have for wrestling. Just we kind of put you in hypotheticals here of how many are where, and just wanted people to get a visual of that if they wish to have one. Any other questions, comments? Or if anybody is ready to make a motion on any part or all of what is left, 3A, 2A girls, 3A, 2A and girls. Floor is open. Mr. Fitzsimons.
Yeah, I don't want to keep anybody here longer than they have to, I guess. Would it be okay to make a motion to keep 3A, 2A and girls wrestling as is, with the caveat of maybe seeing what the numbers lay this year, like Mr. Brooks had mentioned, where it is a 3-year realignment? I know Mr. Jackson had said the board probably doesn't want to come back to try to readjust it every time, but I think it'd be simple because it'd only be, like I said, the 3A, 2A, 1A, the girls, as far as keeping the status quo this year and then seeing where the numbers lie, seeing what happens, and then coming back and revisiting it, because we will be revisiting it in a way if girls get sanctioned. So I guess that's a question, but I can make a motion. In fact, I'll let the director speak.
You read my mind on that because I was going to ask you if that was a motion or a question about a motion. Mr. Jackson, did you want to go to that first? I saw your hand up.
My question is, there's been this discussion going through here about there's been a change. If I'm not mistaken, Bart, the only change in the 3A may be Akipo and Debbie Smith.
We may move some schools out that are no longer 3A eligible.
Correct.
But yes.
Okay, that's why I want to make sure that we're talking about apples and apples and not apples and oranges.
Right.
So with that being said, I have a direction. And if that direction is changed, that direction is changed. That direction has no bearing on this meeting other than when you ask my opinion, it is being driven by that direction. In other words, what I'm saying, Sean, is this. Make your motion, committee, vote on your motion, take it to the board. I did not make the motion. I did not second the motion. I did not vote on the motion. I will take care of what parts of it I have to take care of.
I would ask and I know Mr. Pearson's got his hand up. I'll get to you in just a second, sir. If we were going to make a motion that, and I don't ever want to direct this committee on what motion to make, how to do that. That's your choice. I would ask though, if we are going to revisit it after a year, what are we looking for and who's going to revisit it? Who's going to be, because this committee, for the most part, will be dissolved pretty much once the board approves alignments and tournament formats.
Bart,
Mr. Jackson, am I correct on that?
This committee will be dissolved afterwards because they gave me a direction to bring back realignment in the new topic of conversation. So this committee will no longer exist. So it will be whatever that new direction is for what the next realignment committee will look like. And I don't know what that is at this point. I just know that I'm supposed to discuss that with the board at the next meeting. So I don't want to say that it's going to be this committee, and then when it's not this committee, I don't want to offend anyone in that. What I'm saying is, if that's what this committee says, and that's what the board approves, then it will just make it the committee that's going to be for the next realignment. We'll just have to form a little sooner. How's that?
Okay.
I don't think that should be a worrisome situation, because the board's going to have to approve the postseason format no matter what it is if we revisit it after a year.
Right.
So next June, we should be, if we revisit it, we'll be revisiting it after the season is over, before the June board meeting, so that we're prepared to go into 26, 27, 27, 28.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Pearson.
Just one question with, obviously, both situations, both scenarios are based off of teams are going to be in or out. I mean, after 1 year, can they reassess when the teams are leaving to change the qualification process? I mean, that's kind of, because it's not going to stay the same. All the other leagues are going to, but okay, let's say Truckee, Tahoe, they're all out. We don't know for sure. But if that happens, can they revisit it due to loss of teams? I mean, what happens if we even lose more and then it's really lopsided? Can they? My question is, can you always revisit that based off to get the right representation? I don't know.
I mean, Mr. Jackson's kind of answered it from his standpoint and the board standpoint. But again, whatever recommendation this committee wants to send forward to the board, that's on this committee to decide what they want to do. So that's really not an answer, but that's probably the best answer I can give you. Mr. Cottrell.
I guess question would, for 3A, would it be a motion to say 5 and 3, 5 for the north, 3 for the south, and then if we do lose schools for whatever reason, then it would go to 4 and 4. Could that be part of the motion, or is that, I guess that's more of a question for Paul?
I don't see why it couldn't be part of the motion, but
Okay.
Mr. Paul Anderson, any opinion on that from you, sir?
I think you can make, as you've said earlier, any motion you'd like to make.
I mean, that way there's no need to revisit it. I mean, obviously, if we were to lose a couple schools, then we're back to equal representation almost.
Yeah, so if you want to throw that motion out, you can do that, as everyone's stated earlier here, various people have. The board ultimately will look at what the committee decides and make its decision next week. So if that's the motion you want to make, then you can certainly do that.
So, Rob Cottrell, 3A North, I'd like to make a motion for 3A wrestling state tournament, that the North would have 5 wrestlers, the South would have 3. If for any reason the North were to lose 2 or more schools, then we would go back to a 4-and-4 representation.
Okay. We have a motion on the table from Mr. Cottrell. Do we have a second?
Wade Pearson, 3A North, second.
Motion by Mr. Cottrell, second by Mr. Pearson. And let me see if I get this one right in summary. That the 3A would have 5 wrestlers from the North, 3 from the South per weight class, advanced to state. Should the North lose 2 or more schools currently aligned for that 25 through 28 alignment, that in that case, it would revert to 4 from each region per each weight class advancing to state. Okay. All right. Any questions, comments, or discussions? Let's take a stab at this one as a group vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay.
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 We have 2 nays, Mr. Odegaard and Mr. Polzin. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. We still have 2A and we still have girls. And if anybody would like to take a stab at those. Mr. Fitzsimons.
Yeah, I want to make the motion to let's leave 2A, 1A and girls. I mean, as recommended. With the caveat to hopefully revisit it after this 25-26 school year, and I can get a committee of the coaches that are in the trenches to help kind of see what those numbers were.
Okay. Motion on the table for Mr. Fitzsimons regarding 2A. Is there a second?
Mike Brooks, 2A North. I second this.
Okay. Mr. Baldwin, you had your hand up. Did you want to comment, sir?
So in the 1A, 2A for me, 1A North, I think the proposal, I'm more than willing to serve on that committee, and I can get with my coaches. That way we can look at the data a year from now and kind of see, if we can go 5-3 or if we stay 4-4 following the 25-26 season.
So the motion on the table, as I understand it, is from Mr. Fitzsimons and seconded by Mr. Brooks for 4 from each half of the state to the 2A state championship to be revisited potentially by a committee that Mr. Fitzsimons could possibly get together that would also involve coaches. Mr. Baldwin has volunteered his services for. That's not part of the motion. But I think I've kind of summarized that one okay. Mr. Fitzsimons, I saw you nodding your head. Okay. Any further questions or discussion on this part? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that part passes. Still got girls on the table. Again, currently in girls, we have the top 4 in each half of the state. Girls is not yet its own fully sanctioned sport. It is a division within wrestling for a postseason. Mr. Art Anderson.
Art Anderson, 4A, 5A North. I'd like to make a proposal to keep girls wrestling state championship the same, 4 from the North, 4 from the South, and then possibly revisit it when it becomes a sanctioned sport by the NIAA.
Thank you, Mr. Art Anderson. Do we have a second?
Miles Baldwin, 1A North. I will second that motion.
Okay.
And then for discussion purposes, I just wanted to add that if we kind of can piggyback off of the 2A data accumulation there, and then as Mr. Jackson said, we may be looking at sanctioning it the following year anyway. So that would be kind of an appropriate time to do that data collection.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Motion on the table by Mr. Art Anderson, seconded by Mr. Baldwin. Keep girls qualifying as is, top 4 in each half of the state to the quarterfinals. Revisit that after the NIAA sanctions girls wrestling as its own sport. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Took us 3 months. We got through wrestling. Thank you, everyone. Move to page 46, our spring sport tournament formats. And we start with baseball on page 46. You see at the top what we currently do. I have, for my proposal to this committee, recommended really no changes here, with the exception of pending the number of 4A leagues. Still like to keep that to a 12-team tournament within the 4A. I just don't know how many leagues that's going to work out to get us there. We'll open the floor here for discussion. The number of leagues, by the way, is a chore for Mr. Anthium and I when this meeting is done. But again, discussion here, questions, comments, concerns. If not, we'd open it up to a motion. And Mr. Polzin.
Yeah, so in regards to 5A baseball in the region tournament, is this where we discuss increasing the amount of teams now that we've made that division substantially larger, to potentially increase that to a 12-team region tournament similar to the 4A state tournament?
We could do that. I've kind of, through our process here of our tournament formats, really focused on the state tournament and kind of left the region tournaments to the region to decide for the course of those 3 years. I just like it to be consistent over that time. We haven't really directed a northern or a southern region to indicate how many teams they were going to have in their region tournament. But if this committee would like to send a recommendation forward, that's within this committee's prerogative.
I just know with the increase in teams and speaking to, our head baseball coach who's talked to, Coach Anderson at Faith and all the others, I do know with the increase to, to the number of teams we have, they would like to see that at least increase to a 12-team region tournament and then continue with the top 2 go to state, representing against the North, but just to increase the region tournament just simply because we made 5A so much bigger now.
Yeah, I don't know how deep I want to get into this discussion. If that is a 12-team double elimination tournament in that region tournament, that is the potential for 23 games in that tournament. And that could be a lot of games. We may have to look at starting that tournament earlier than what we normally would, simply because a team could end up with a much longer pathway through there. If they lose the first round game, could be a lot of games in a short period of time, or to lengthen that. I don't know if that's a concern for you or not. Just something I'll throw out there. Other questions or comments here?
I don't think that's a concern based on the conversations I've had. They'd be fine with starting that, essentially a week earlier, I think, similar to what they do to 4A.
Okay. Okay. If there's no other comments or questions here, we'd entertain a motion on a format for our playoffs for baseball. It does or does not have to include what Mr. Polzing's talking about with the 5A Southern region. If we want to leave that alone and let the region decide, that's something this committee has the ability to do as well.
Sorry, pardon my ignorance, Bart. Could you define region? Who would be the ones deciding that?
We generally have had somebody over top of the region. Let's say you have a league or region president. In this case, probably Mr. Anthium would be in the 5A South, the de facto person there. But that could be something our office works in conjunction with the league president of the 4A in the South or the 5A in the South to work to. Mr. Anthium, I don't mean to speak for you here, or put you in a position that you're maybe not in or not comfortable with. Maybe
I'm good. Thanks, Bart. Yeah. So typically what's happened in the past is that Bart and I kind of attempt to, in best practice and best with parity, I guess you could say, based off of everything that we have and the numbers that are given, to make divisions that are pragmatic, geographic, and also entail with Bart's rubric system to be as copacetic as possible. Obviously, when it comes to scheduling and everything, also looking at the numbers of teams, as we can see, specifically like with winter, we had a 5A with 9 teams, so we just with one league and one game against your other common opponents because of desires for tournaments and what have you. So I'm sure we'll try to come up with something copacetic for everyone.
And then from a playoff format standpoint, that's something that we do get involved in because they are the NIA's games. We are charging admission. We are paying for officials. We just want to make sure that the region is involved in that decision. The 5A South doesn't have somebody like maybe a Mr. Levitt like the 5A North does to be a commissioner over top of that. But I believe that's something we could discuss between Mr. Anthium and I, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Anthium and I.
Bart, this is Paul Anderson. I think, we're dealing agenda-wise with state tournament.
Right.
I think you need to just get on that and stay on.
I appreciate that, sir. Again, we'd be looking for a motion to either approve what you see or come up with a different baseball state tournament format. Gonna need a motion here one way or another, guys. I got to take something forward to the board next week.
Yeah, Tony Polzing, 485A South. I think with that knowledge in mind that they will be able to work, with X and whoever to discuss the size of the region tournament. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we keep these same qualifying standards for the state baseball tournament.
Okay, we have a motion on the table from Mr. Polzing. Do we have a second?
Sean Fitzsimons, 2A South. I'll second the motion.
Motion by Mr. Polzing, a second by Mr. Fitzsimons to keep the baseball tournament formats for state as they currently are. Any further questions, comments, or discussion?
Oh, actually, darn it. Hey, so with this new realignment, how many teams do we have in 4A now?
Let's go back in our packet and our baseball.
21.
How many?
21.
Okay, thank you, X. My concern is you could probably pencil the 4A state tournament in right now, the qualifiers, with what's left after all these appeals that were done. So my thought, I know I have a motion on the floor, but my thought was this 12 too many in 4A. I'm looking for input.
Thank you, Mr. Polzing. Anybody wish to comment on that?
I kind of am in agreement with Tony on this one. I don't know what the right number is, but I think 12 might be too high for 4A.
Okay.
X, could you chime in here? What are your thoughts? Sorry, buddy. I see you.
You're good, sir. So, you got, man, this is just, if we have 21, and I know what I've heard from coach and what have you, looks like you might have 3 divisions of 7. I know that Bart and I haven't sat down yet to quite figure out which way to go with that. So if you went 3 divisions of 7, you're taking the top 4 in those 3 divisions. Is that too many? But then I also heard you say earlier, Tony, that we're only going to have 7 teams in the 5A, and you also want 12 for that region. So I don't know. Is 12 okay to have more in the 5A but less in the 4A?
Well, no, we have like 18 teams now in the 5A.
17. Yeah.
17.
Excuse me.
Yeah, 17, and then like I said, you have 21 in the 4A.
All right, then I won't amend my motion. Leave it the same.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from our committee? All right. Again, motion on the table from Mr. Polzing, seconded by Mr. Fitzsimons to roll with baseball as is, as was presented on page 46 of our packet. go ahead and call for the question. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Please indicate by saying nay. Motion passes. Page 47, softball tournament formats. Mirroring what we just did with baseball. They're the same as they were this cycle. The proposes for no changes here. But again, our committee has the ability to do make any proposal they wish to do here. We'll open it up for comments, questions, discussions, or motion.
Tony, 4A5A South. I've heard no comments either way from any softball coaches. So I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we keep softball the same for the state qualifying standards for this next cycle.
Thank you, Mr. Polzian. Motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Jason Odegaard, 3A South, I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Polzian, seconded by Mr. Odegaard. Keep the softball state tournament formats the same as they have been for our cycle just completed. Any further questions, comments, or discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Boys golf. Here's a little bit of a change in this one. It is page 48 of your packet. You see what is currently there. Not a real change here in terms of the 5A or the 3A. They would stay as is. 4A, we've gone down to a maximum of 6 teams, which we haven't been seeing that 8 go to state. It just hasn't come that close. Pick up a couple more individuals in the South. The 5A and the 4A actually do have the same number of teams now when you combine North and South. That's why I went with a 5A, 3 teams and 6 individuals in each half of the state. That gets us to 6 and 12. The 4A would be the same. The 3A would be the same. There is a qualifying standard now to advance to state that has already been approved by our Board of Control at the last meeting. Teams and individuals need to meet the qualifying standard in order to advance. I do have a change in the 2A that I'm proposing, where we currently go 2-2-2 for East, West, and South. The South this year had 3 schools competing in the region tournament in boys golf: Needles, Lake Mead, Tonopah. Every kid that competed in that tournament advanced to state because all the spots were still there for them. There are more teams in the East. The East has had 6 full teams and more golfers overall. I am proposing that we go 3 from the East, 2 from the West, 1 from the South, and then top 5 individuals in each region to advance to state here. Mr. Baldwin, your hand is up first, sir.
Miles Baldwin, 1A East, and then 2A East, kind of golf kind of representative. I know my region would be a huge fan of this proposal here. I think when we talk representation, like with wrestling, I think this is definitely a fair way to get more representation from the region with the most participants.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from our committee?
Bart, Tony, 4A5A South. I apologize if this has been addressed. With the implementation of the new qualifying standards, do you know approximately how many golfers that would have eliminated this year at the state tournament?
Off the top of my head, I don't. But in terms of the 5A, 4A, it's not going to be all that many. What it will probably do more than anything else is a number 6 golfer on a qualifying team may not advance because they need to meet the qualifying standard as well. Those are in place based on a direction of our Board of Control over the course of time that wanted to see some of those larger scores at state tournaments not be larger scores at state tournaments. I don't see this tripping out any teams, with the exception of the really odd year. And the individuals who are qualifying as individuals separate of teams are already the best of those individuals. It's really not going to trip them out. But again, it may take out, let's call it the depth piece of a team who whose score probably isn't ever going to be used unless they get into a situation where a golfer is DQ'd.
Thank you, Bart.
Yeah. Other questions or comments? If not, we would entertain a motion or somebody try to tackle one here for boys golf. I know you were getting hungry for lunch, guys, but we actually got to have a motion here to take. We got to have something to take forward to our board.
Tony Polsey, 485A South. I'd like to make a motion that for boys golf, we accept the proposed changes from staff in regards to boys golf.
Motion on the table of Mr. Polzien. Do we have a second?
Art Anderson, 5A4A North. I second that motion.
Thank you. Motion on the table, Mr. Polzien, seconded by Mr. Art Anderson, to accept the proposed state tournament format for boys golf. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. We move to page 49 for boys volleyball. You see what we currently have in our 5A, 4A, and 3A. Proposed is a little bit of a change here because the 5A only has 7 teams. The proposal here is for a 6-team tournament. Again, boys volleyball is a Southern-only sport. For the 4A, again, depending on the number of leagues, looking at a 16-team tournament as there are more 4A teams this time around. If we have 5 leagues, keeping it to the top 3 in each league for a 15-team format. 3A, I'm also looking at a top 6. We currently have 9 teams in the 3A. That's if they're all going to field teams, which I don't know that I'm 100% certain of at this point. So again, we'd open it up for questions or discussion on boys volleyball.
Yeah, Tony Polsey, 4A5A South. We're now a 9-team Southern 5A, correct? With the
boys volleyball appeals, correct. Yes, you are correct, sir.
All right.
So that could be amended to 8 if you wanted to go there.
Yeah, Tony Polsey, 4A5A South. I'd like to take the proposed amendment from staff, but I would like to amend 5A to be the top 8 in the Southern League into an 8-team tournament rather than what is proposed.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Sean Fitzsimons, 2A South. I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Polsey and second by Mr. Fitzsimons to accept the proposed format with the exception that the 5A would be the top 8 in the Southern League advancing to the tournament. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Page 50, swimming and diving. Here again, we have 8 lanes in the pool in most pools. We go top 4 in each half of the state. In 5A and in 3A, the 4A, which is South only, top 4 in each of the 2 regions. We are proposing no changes.
Tony Polsey, 4A5A South. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the swimming and diving postseason setup.
Thank you, Mr. Polsey. And do we have a second?
Sean Fitzsimons, 2A South. I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzsimons. Motion by Mr. Polsey and seconded by Mr. Fitzsimons to keep the current format for state tournaments rolling into the next cycle. Any further questions, comments, or discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Last one, track and field on page 51. You can see it on your screen there. Mr. Polsey doesn't like when I read it to him. We are proposing no changes here as well. Just keep everything rolling as is into the next cycle. Questions, comments, or concerns? Mr. Vick and then Mr. Baldwin.
So I was approached by schools in 1A West. Is it possible to consider changing the from the top 3 to the next best 2 to changing to either to the the winners or the top two, and then the next best four qualifying.
So you'd be looking at changing the 1A to either 1, 1, and 6 or 2, 2, and 4. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. Again, anything's possible here. Mr. Baldwin.
In the 1A East, I was also approached with that same proposal idea. There's a big disparity when we get to the state from the 1A regional or 1A regionals, 1A North regionals. There's quite a few events where somebody who finished 8th in the 1A North, who obviously is eliminated from going to the state meet, could have won the 1A South with their mark or their time. So see, again, representation, the 1A North is much larger than the 1A South, team wise, number of teams. So again, if we go 116, 6 at large, or 224 with 4 at large.
Okay. While we're on that discussion, then 2A people, is that something you want to keep doing the way you're doing right now, 3, 3, and 2? Mr. Fitzsimons.
Yeah, Sean Fitzsimons, 2A South. We spoke to some 2A coaches about this. We're happy where it is currently. It seemed pretty balanced.
Mr. Davis, I think technically I just received public comment.
Regarding?
Track. In the 1A. It's kind of akin to what Mr. Vick was saying.
Okay. Any further discussion on this before we hear public comment? Ms. Wonder, what you have is that email written public comment or somebody wishing to give live public comment?
It was a text message received for me to say what their proposal would be, I guess, just to add in there.
Okay, any objections from the committee to hearing the public comment now? Okay, Ms. Wonder, whenever you're ready.
Forgive me in advance if I ruin his last name. Hi, Tia. Jeff Netson here from Pyramid Lake. David Vick asked me to text you a quick request from all 12 Northern 1A track coaches to change qualifying for 1A state track. Our proposal is to change the qualifying. Currently, it is the 3 North and 3 South plus the next best 2. It would be far more fair to make it the league champions and the next best 6 qualifiers. As of now, there are 12 teams in the North and only 6 in the South. There are events yearly that the North would have all 8 qualifiers if state was based on best athletes. The South has qualifiers every year who do not belong at a state meet. I have data at school I can send you that makes our point. We are out of school for the summer. If I could get you that data, if you guys request that.
Thank you, Ms. Wonder. Any further comments, questions, discussions from our committee? If not, we'd entertain a motion for track and field postseason formats. Mr. Magrum.
Really quickly, from the 5A North side, I know this was brought up from another school. I don't know what the options are for it, but they were asking, at least on the 5A side, in years that are hosted at schools that have the 9th lane, is there any ability to bring that in as just kind of a next best qualifier on top of what's already going? I know ourselves here at Hug and Carson would, I think, be the 2 schools that have that ability. And being that one of our members had asked it, I wanted to bring that up as a question, if that's even an option on those. If a school does have that 9th lane, if there's something we could put in there to add an extra athlete in some way in those events.
Again, this committee can propose anything it wants to going forward to the Board of Control. The one thing I'd be a little bit gun shy on is if we are going to include a 9th qualifier when the event is held at a certain track that has 9. What do we do with the 4A if the 4A never goes north? What do we do with, do the 2A, 1A want to send a 9th person on? That's a discussion that probably opens a bigger can of worms here. But again, this committee can push forward what it wants to the Board of Control. That being said, if there are no further questions or discussions, guys, we do need a motion.
Miles Baldwin, 1A North. I motion to approve the 5A through 2A as written, with the 1A taking the league event champions, and then the next best 6 marks or times, regardless of region.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Baldwin, seconded by Mr. Vick, to keep 5A, 4A, 3A, and 2A as presented as current, rolling that into the next cycle. The 1A to become the top finisher in each half of the state, and the next best 6 marks, regardless of region, to advance to state. Any further questions, comments, or discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 I think I need a few more ayes, guys. I didn't really hear many voices there. Let's do it one more time. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Item number 9, finally, committee member comments for the good of the order. This is for discussion only. I am going to lead this off and I will not take too long, I promise. We put you through a lot over the course of these 2 years, a whole lot of meetings, a whole lot of back and forth with the board when it came to football especially. I am extremely grateful to every one of these members of our committee, whether you are a voting member, whether you are a liaison, for all the time, energy, effort, and wisdom you have put into our realignment. I can't begin to thank you enough for all of your time. It's a huge commitment that we ask of you, and we appreciate it so very, very much. Mr. Jackson, I don't know if you want to echo anything in regards to that. If not, we will open it up to any other comments from our committee.
Ditto.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to comment? Other than I'm hungry, let's go to lunch. Okay, item number 10 is public comment. This time provides an opportunity for citizens to address the committee about any matter not listed on the agenda. Items raised during this portion of the agenda cannot be deliberated or acted upon until notice procedures of the open meeting law have been met. Should a member of this public wish to speak on a matter not listed on the agenda, it is asked that said person complete a public comment card and submit it to an NIAA staff member prior to the opening of this item. A limit of 3 minutes per person and/or 5 minutes for the spokesperson of a group may be imposed. It is requested that comments be directed to the committee as a whole. Comments deemed to be irrelevant, repetitious, offensive, inflammatory, or willfully disruptive, or deemed to be personal attacks will not be permitted. Mr. Jackson or Ms. Wonder, do we have anybody in the NIAA office in Sparks wishing to make public comment?
No.
No.
Thank you. Thank you. Any emailed public comments, Ms. Wonder, we need to be aware of?
Not in my inbox. Anyone else?
No, not from here. Any other public comment from any of our locales around the state? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you so very much. We are adjourned at 12:17 p.m.